go by your full Juha Pekka? You, okay.
Tuorempia kuulumisia kaikki maailmalla ja
Good morning.
Sitten meillä on pieni aika ihan vaan yleiselle keskustelulle ja sitten puhutaan tarkemmin näistä asiakassektoreista.
It's a big group coming to that. I mean, we have, I don't know how many registrations, but it'll be a gathering. Usually we have a standing room only at WTM, and then ITD in New York. Those are 3 days to ensure connect events like this. This one's a little bit special because of the way we're doing it, but yeah, in London we usually have 100, 150 people who come to those. So. Indeed.
Do you have the program? This one? Can you? No.
I don't have it right now.
Onko minkälaisia printattua ohjelmaa?
Pitäkää poroja. Yhteisellä asialla niin Suomelle lisää tavallaan. Se nyt varmaan siinä korostuu.
Okei, kello on 9 ja aloitellaan tilaisuutta. Terolla, onko kaikki valmiina siellä? Hyvä. Tervetuloa kaikille. Minä olen Tapanisen Titta Metsähallitukselta, Pohjanmaan luontopalveluilta ja toimin projektipäällikkönä luontoaktiviteetit matkailun kärjeksi hankkeessa, joka on kutsunut vieraaksi maailman luontoaktiviteettijärjestön Euroopan johtajan Doylen kertomaan meille ajatuksiaan seikkailumatkailun tulevaisuudesta, trendeistä ja tekemään myöskin havaintoja sitten täällä Oulangan kansallispuistossa, kuinka voitaisiin palvella asiakkaita ehkä hieman paremmin tulevaisuudessa. Ja tämä kansainvälinen näkökulma korostuu meillä, koska Oulangan kansallispuistossa jo nykyisellään joka 4. tai vähintään joka 5. asiakas on kansainvälinen asiakas. Ja tulevaisuudessa odotetaan tämän kansainvälisen asiakaskunnan kasvavan entisestään ja selkeästikin nämä aktiviteetit tulevat korostumaan ja tätä näkökulmaa on tässä muutama päivä täällä Oulangalla jumpattu. Tämän vierailu on mahdollistanut sitten todellakin tämä luontoaktiviteetit matkailun kärjeksi hanke, joka saa rahoituksessa Euroopan maaseuturahastosta. Ja ennen tätä torstain tilaisuutta me ollaan seikkailumatkailtu tuolla Oulangan kansallispuistossa 2 päivää. Siellä on patikoitu ja melottu ja haluankin esittää kiitokset Keijolle Basecamp Oulangasta. Terveisiä myös Henkalle, joka toimi meillä oppaana. Oli erittäin miellyttävä kokemus katsella kansallispuistoa hieman erilaisesta näkökulmasta sieltä Oulangan joen pinnalta meloen. Ja eilen kävimme kiertämässä pienen karhukierroksen Eki Karjalaisen johdosta, että kiitokset vaan Ekille. Sellainen havainto, mikä tässä näiden päivien aikana on tullut meille ja vahvistunut meille, jotka tätä kehittämistoimintaa teemme, että meidän tulisi paljon rohkeammin kertoa meidän luonnosta, meidän kansallispuistossa, kun nykyisellään teemme, että monet pienet asiat tuntuvat kiinnostavan meidän kansainvälisiä asiakkaita enemmän kuin tällä hetkellä kerromme, että tätä näkökulmaa vahvasti Chris toi esille. Ja en halua viedä sen enempää aikaa itse tässä, mutta pyytäisin, että käydään lyhyt esittelykierros englanniksi, että myöskin Chris tietää, ketä täällä paikalla on. Ja koska meillä on mukana Tero Taatinen Rural Finland-verkostosta, hän striimaa tämän. Todennäköisesti meillä on jonkun verran online-yleisöä siellä. Ja pyydänkin teitä, jotka olette siellä langan päässä, niin kirjautumaan Google-tilin kautta aktiiviseksi tähän lähetykseen ja lähettämään meille kysymyksiä ja terveisiä, niin sitten pystytään myöskin paremmin perillä siitä, että ketä siellä langan päässä on. Ja todellakin rohkaisen myös teitä sieltä sitten laittamaan chatin kautta meille kysymyksiä ja kommentteja ja niitä tullaan ottamaan sitten esille tässä keskustelulle varatussa osiossa. Ja pidetään kahvitauko tuossa noin 10 aikaan ja siellä 12 kieppeillä sitten lopetellaan, mutta ole hyvä, Sari Alatossava, puistonjohtaja, aloita sinä, kerro kuka olet ja mistä olet englannin kielellä, niin myöskin meidän online-yleisö sitten pääsee kärrylle, ketä täällä paikan päällä on. Kiitos. Tervetuloa vielä kerran.
No, huomenta vaan kaikille. Good morning to everyone. Sari Alatossava, National Park Superintendent in this Kainuu-Koillismaa region.
Good morning, Irene Walter. I work for Oulangan National Park. That's all.
Okay. I'm Maria Pieviläinen. I work for Ski School Rukan, Ski School Manager. On behalf of that and my own interest of all kind of outdoor activities.
Okay.
Good morning everybody. I'm Leena Ylipiipari from Visit Finland and I'm the project manager for Outdoors Finland project.
Good morning, I'm Pasi from Enontekijät, Pasi Ikonen. Come from a company called Cape Lapland Ltd. We run huskies under the name of ATTA Huskies. I'm here because of a meeting in the afternoon in the city hall, but because I've been a couple of years on your mailing list and I saw that this is here on the same day, and since I've come from so far away, I decided to join for this morning.
Thank you. Welcome.
Teesken Oulanka Keijo Salenius, being with this adventure tourism now for 18 years and very keen to your ideas and want to learn more about this thing. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Peter Stricker. I come from Kajaani, it's about 250 kilometers south from here, from the University of Applied Sciences. And I'm teaching as a lecturer in our faculty of activity tourism, especially in the areas of adventure tourism, product development and so on.
Welcome.
Good morning everybody. My name is Patricia Patrikus. I work for Napopolis and I'm the project manager for Flavors of Kuusamo, Lapland. I have 6 individual companies from the region, all within the travel industry in this project. That's why this is close to me.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Nadia Povila. I'm the project manager also in Napopolis. I work for Slow Adventure in Northern Territories project. 50% of my time goes to the project. The other 50% I'm a private business owner in tourism, and also the company is participating in Patricia's project, so small world.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Greetings from Rovaniemi. My name is Juha, and I come from Lapland Hotels and Safaris. We are running nowadays 16 hotels around Lapland, and in Oulu and Tampere also we have hotels. And then we have Lapland Safaris, who is the biggest, I guess, nowadays in Scandinavia for safaris. We have 7 safari offices now, as we are opening also in Kemi office. offering different kind of activities from FITs to incentive groups.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're a little ahead of schedule, but I think you have so many
I will
stories
mess
to
that up
tell.
for us.
Yeah, so please,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming this morning. And to those of you viewing on the YouTube channel, were you able to send a question out to find out?
Yes, there's 8 people watching and 2 comments.
Excellent. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. I appreciate the introductions, especially with a small group. I will start with just a few of my ground rules for Adventure Connect events, and their ATTA ground rules as well. We present, I notice this is my first deeper encounter with the Finnish people, and I observe a level of formality that I would like to erase for this meeting a little bit. Which means throughout the presentation this morning, feel free to let me know if you have a question, if you have a challenge to something, if you have an idea. Don't hesitate. It's not, you don't have to wait until the end and stand up and all of that done. But feel free to open up, share, discuss challenges, because we will get into some challenges a little bit later in the morning. Typically what I do is I have 3 different style presentations. One is like a TED Talk, which is like a 18-minute, here's the program, here's the vision, things like that. And then there's more of a little bit of news briefing and update, which is about 25 to 35 minutes. And then when I come to a destination where there's already a very mature level of adventure tourism development, great responsible tourism sensibilities, a great deal of progress in which I think other destinations around the world can learn from, then I invest a little bit more time. So after the last couple of days and the research I did before arriving here, I'm actually leaning towards the deeper look at some of the topics. So even last night, I changed up a few things to add more depth to the discussion here. Because I think we're beyond introductory level in this region, and I want to acknowledge that. Thanks, of course, to Metsähallitus, and forgive me for pronunciations. You have to give me a hall pass, as we say in the USA. So that you're aware, I'm actually married to a Swede, and I live in Gothenburg, Sweden. I just moved there permanently this last year. But I've been living in the United States, in California, which is where I'm from. And for the Slow Food group and Slow Adventure group, I grew up in Sonoma County, California, which National Geographic calls like the cornucopia of the world, because it has all of the organic food, slow food movement, wine, everything you can imagine. It's parked right there. So I have that sensibility. I grew up on a farm. So things that I've been hearing here are very meaningful to me. I hunted until I shot my first animal, and then I never hunted again. But I appreciate and understand hunters. I grew up with them. That's just a little bit of background so you understand part of my context. And then also my entire professional career, save for maybe, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 years of it, was intensively focused on human-powered outdoor recreation, on adventure travel, on conservation, environmental conservation, on expeditions, expedition grant programs. So I worked for a company which is now a $2 billion US dollar annual revenue company, REI, which is a leader globally for responsible outdoor recreation. So just so you understand my context, I didn't learn this yesterday. This is the essence of who I am. So if you have questions tied to any of those areas, feel free along the way to ask. My professional training is in journalism and communication. Okay, so I take the lens and standpoint of a lot of what Titta has asked me to speak to, which is since you're already very mature on tourism development, it's now how do we access international markets, how do we tell stories, things like that. So we'll be jumping into some of that toward the end. First of all, let me give a couple of thanks. Titta, thank you. Veiko, I'm not sure if you're watching, but if you are, thank you for all of your help. And then we have quite a few people in the room here who have been helping. Sari, Niria, Keo, thank you for the great stay at base camp. That was incredible. Eki from Pro Guides. Really great experiences here. And Lena from Visit Finland, thank you for being here and being a part of it. For me, that is really helpful to have the entire supply chain at an Adventure Connect event. So if I can take just a moment here, Tero, can you just give me a sense on who else is joining us and for the group here?
Yes, those who are able to comment.
Yeah.
There is my colleague, Raja Ruusunen, from same project
Okay.
as I am. And then Petri Kulha from Suomen Latu Kilpää.
Which is what?
Hiking association
Okay.
or skiing association
Okay.
in Finland, but they take care of many activities. They are like the voluntary association.
Excellent.
Very professional.
Very good.
Yeah.
And Jouni Laaksonen from Kuusamo.
Excellent. Okay, that's helpful. And if we have anybody else join in and you think it's relevant, I would like to just have you interject so that everybody in the room knows who's present.
Jouni Laaksonen is one of the leading journalists on outdoor activities.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So part of what I'll do here is actually give you a bit of background about the ATTA. And I will also provide you with the context of, and forgive me for this, but I need to do this every destination I go to, the definition of adventure travel. Because that way we're all on the same page in how the industry is viewing it globally and how consumers are viewing it globally. And that'll help make sure we're all in the same thing. We'll cover trends. I'm not going to go through every slide, by the way. There's another rule, which is this entire presentation, which has many slides, but we're going to zip through some of them. I'll be providing it to everyone. So note taking and stuff like that, that's up to you, but you're going to have this entire program, all right? So we'll go through, I'm going to tell you a little bit about, of course, the trends, and then how some of these trends fuel our universal education and training program. And then we're going to talk specifically about Finland, and then we're going to go through some different activities throughout the course of the morning. First, about the ATTA, I mentioned to you that I was going to share with you our positioning statement, our mission. It's kind of both, and we don't use the word sustainability. It's overused, it's just a word. But what we do here, inspire, connect, empower the community around the world to deliver travel experiences that protect natural and cultural capital and create shared economic value. Okay? And by the way, if I go too fast, please slow me down. I do have a tendency to start moving in. So if you need me to slow down or clarify anything for understanding, do let me know. All of us care about this. And in fact, we care about it locally more than anything. And so some of the data and trends I will show you make that point, okay? So creating shared economic value is essential. It's important for you to understand the ATTA. So you know a little bit about us, some of you maybe a little bit more. But it's important that you understand we are global. We have, I think, here in Europe, about 330 members throughout the continent. But we're spread out all over the world. We're stronger in some areas than others, obviously. But know that our membership comprises the entire supply chain. So tourism boards, promotional and marketing agencies, tour operators, international outbound tour operators, ground suppliers. We have food industry, we have airline, transportation companies, accommodations, guides. We do that intentionally because you can't really move an industry unless everyone's engaged. And you know that locally. You can't really succeed unless from the ground up everybody's engaged. And we'll be talking about this a little bit more because Finland already has some very strong perspectives and already actions underway that reflect this. It's important for you to know our value set, and most of you are familiar with the United Nations World Tourism Organization. There's a set of tourism ethics that include things that are very important, like First Nation rights and individual or indigenous rights. Obviously the sustainability side of things. So we fully subscribe to that value pillar. We also are deeply involved and actually helped create and pull together over that 10-year period the Global Sustainable Tourism Criteria. In fact, our president, Shannon Stowell, Mr. Shannon Stowell, was on the board, active board member for about 5 years with the GSTC. So we were intimately involved with the Global Sustainable Tourism Criteria. One additional note that you should know is that with our trade association, back in 2004, Shannon Stowell called me and said, we have an opportunity. We can do the Adventure Travel Trade Association. What do you know about adventure tourism? He and I had already worked together for about 4 years in an online retailer of outdoor and adventure lifestyle gear. Before that, I had been doing media relations for REI Adventures, which is a top North American adventure travel company. Shannon and I have only done this ATTA since then. So I have no other interests. I have no business interests. I don't have a company. It's the ATTA for us. So I hope that helps most trade associations. Somebody's got one foot over here and we own a lodge over here and stuff. So we are entirely focused on this. The third pillar is the protection of children. The code, we're the first trade association globally to commit to the efforts to protect children around the world. And then fourth is we have our own community value system, the ATTA network. It's how we protect each other. It's how we respect each other. It's how we share. It's how we even work with our competitors so that we can better the industry. We were talking, Titta, yesterday just a little bit about, you know, when the tide rises in a bay, all the boats are lifted. And that's our key philosophy. If we are sharing across the board, everyone wins. Okay? So this is what we're focused on. These are just some of our partners. And then our advisory board member is comprised of very influential people around the world. It can include like director of travel at Google to Richard Weiss, who's probably one of the best responsible tourism consultants on the planet. So we've got many different individuals who are helping to guide us. So we're going to jump into the tourism industry a little bit here. Bottom line is we all in this room recognize the power of tourism. We've seen all the numbers about the growth of tourism and how much it contributes to jobs and GDP of countries and such. This particular slide, I'm not going to read it. It's, you know, one of the key data points that we have brought to the industry over the last few years is the growth of adventure tourism. The challenge with our data right now is that we're not yet updated. So the last figure was a study we did from 2009 to 2012, which put the adventure tourism sector at about $263 billion US annually. And we know that's climbed quite substantially globally, mainly because the leisure tourism industry over the last 5 years in particular has started to lean directly where all of you are emphasizing your time and energies right now. Slow food movement, muscle-powered, human-powered outdoor recreation, intensive focus on conservation concepts, using tourism as a tool for peace, community connection, volunteering, all of these things you're aware of. The mass tourism industry is now jumping into this sector a lot more. So we know that growth is like a hockey stick right now, okay? So, adventure. Over the years, and we've done repeated check-ins on the definition of adventure travel, and we've done it from a trade standpoint and a consumer standpoint. So while we're facilitating it, don't think that this is just what ATTA said it's going to be. So academia is involved in this, travelers, and of course the business. The core, the sweet spot of adventure tourism combines the physical activity, the mountain biking, the climbing, the kayaking, the rafting, and so on, with intensive cultural exchange and engagement. So that spans festivals and art and crafts and archaeology and wine and farming and all of these aspects that we all care about, that we all know are integral to a deeper, richer experience. And then of course interaction with the environment. And we're sitting in an extraordinary part of the world, and we talked a bit last night about how unique this was to me, because I haven't spent a lot of time in the taiga before. And so I was trying to understand, you know, nature in this context, and there were things I didn't understand, and so I was struggling with that a little bit. So I learned a great deal just in the last 2 days. That's another little asterisk for me, which is my input is based on my pre-research coming here and only 2 days of experience. I suspect I'll be here more often, but just know that my reflections that you'll see toward the end are just based on very recent experience, but drawn from my experiences in the ATTA experiences from around the world. Okay? Thoughts, questions, anything? Pace okay?
Petri Kulha is asking, what is the big picture on voluntary-based work in outdoor guiding or generally in outdoor business? How does it meet customers' expectations?
Are you speaking to voluntourism? Is that the?
We'd like to bring it. We'd like to bring it volunteering to headlights.
Okay. Into focus, you mean? Bringing voluntourism into focus. If I can, let's address that a little bit later in the program, because it's very specific to kind of the direction for Finland adventure travel. Voluntourism comes with baggage. There are challenges with voluntourism, and we, on the one hand, we're very concerned about it and are skeptical, and then on the other hand, properly applied to certain areas, like maybe carbon offset programs where you're going and planting trees. There's value in that, and those are specific projects. But when it comes to humans and volunteering, it comes with a very serious challenge about continuity, about connection with people, about letting people down when we leave, things like that. There's a lot of challenges with that. I've just learned over the last 2 weeks at the Adventure Travel World Summit, there are 2 major international outbound operators who will no longer do voluntourism. So for example, just a quick example, and then I'm going to ask to move on and we can address it later. The programs that go to Asia and try to help with children who are left behind, what they have found is most of those children aren't left behind. They're taking advantage of all the travelers and visitors under the guise that they're left behind children, and they're not. The parents are just, you know, go, earn money, and then come back. So there's this whole dynamic, a whole economy that's been created that's inappropriate, and this is repeated worldwide. So we have our skepticism for that. We'll address voluntourism and voluntary projects later, because there are great ways to do it.
May I add that, Petri, if you can a little bit more specific what you mean by it, because I think that the volunteer tourism kind of thing that is possible in Finland perhaps doesn't include aspects that you mentioned. So please, Petri, if you can specify this question just a few words more, so that Chris can answer it.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll address it later in the program. All right, so then the next question about adventure tourism is, what is it? Is it hard adventure? Is it soft adventure? And basically anything that requires technical skills, certifications, things like that, that require or that feature more risk, that you typically need to be clipped in. You need helmets, all of that, more hard adventure oriented. And then of course, kind of the original definition of adventure travel, those long treks, expedition style, that's more the hard adventure side. But we all know that this is where most of the market is, and it's the soft adventure. It's I want to do some great mountain biking by day, and I want a beautiful base camp at night and have great cuisine and wine and a nice comfy bed. You know, that is where the market is, about 80%. But it includes all the, these are just examples of some things. And so, of course, that's where the #1 demand is. Something that I don't have in here, but you may want to look at if you have not already, is the UN WTO Global Report on Adventure Tourism. So ATTA was the primary author of that, and UNWTO endorsed that so strongly they asked if they could publish it for us. And that's why it came out in a beautiful package, because we basically worked with them on the content, and then they wrapped it up and gave very strong endorsement to it, including the Secretary General, Taleb Rifai. So he and Marcio Favela, the #2 in the organization, are encouraging the ATTA and our community to press forward as much as we can in doing what we're doing. And we'll get into the reasons why here a little bit. So I'm going to just emphasize a couple points here, and it's why this matters, why adventure tourism matters. And this is just, again, so we're all in the same context. This, whether it's EU or even what I've heard from most of you here, it fuels rural economic tourism development. I would argue that most of the reason you all are getting EU grants is because of this. You know, jobs, local economy, fuel GDP locally. As the ATTA, our original, if you look at our handwritten original vision for the ATTA, help alleviate poverty around the world. That's what Shannon and I talked about at the very beginning. So we found a smarter business way to make that same thing happen, and this is one of the key tenets. Many of you have been talking about, gee, we need to extend our season. We have a strong winter, but what happens on the shoulder seasons and in summer? So we focus on this. The adventure travelers, they're intrepid. They'll go do anything as long as they want to get to that destination. It's not capital intensive. You all have great infrastructure here already. And there are opportunities to grow. We've been talking about it along Ulanka, about the opportunity for maybe in that buffer zone to perhaps add some additional infrastructure. But it doesn't require building a 300-bedroom hotel. We can use existing buildings, we can remodel them, we can bring back the history of the region, all of that. The adventure traveler, we know through our research that the travelers stay longer and spend more. Okay, and I'll show you some data on that. The big thing also, when people are exposed to special cultures and environments, and they learn and they get deeply engaged in it, they become the fiercest protectors of those places and of those cultures, and they want to see it survive. So you'll often see the adventure traveler donating to the cause after, or doing social media to help raise awareness of a cause, and so on. So for example, in Africa, a whole industry has popped up, another volunteering project where volunteer travelers come down and they help feed all the lions, right? The cubs, and they get to hold them and play with them and such. But actually what's going on behind the scenes is all those now young lions are being put onto game reserves so that hunters can shoot them. So they're taking money on the volunteerism side and then making money off of the hunting. And it's called blood lions. And so now travelers have gone out and done a social media campaign against it, and now remedy is coming immediately to stop that. So these are the types of things we have to be aware of. One of the issues that I have heard a little bit about here, and I don't want to debate it here, it's just something to be aware of, is the feeding of animals for tourism purposes. That's a challenge. That's a debate you will have to face. I'm not here to debate either side of it, but just an awareness that you will encounter that and people will be pressing you on those questions. Resilient and rebounds faster. Perhaps a little less pertinent here in the region, although climate change is becoming more and more an issue globally. But for war-torn zones, conflict-ridden zones, natural disasters, hurricanes and tsunamis, things like that, people go right back in. Within 5 months of the earthquake in Nepal, the ATTA had realized, because we tried very hard, to send airplanes load of gear to Nepal. But because there was so much corruption on where that gear was going and people were taking it, they actually stopped those flights just as they were getting ready to take off, said don't bring the gear. So we learned that we're not an aid agency organization. So we said, what can we do? What are we good at? And it's helping to bring travelers, to help get international media exposure, and to bring buyers in. So what we did is an adventure week, and I'll describe that in a little while here, to bring buyers back in and journalists to let people know that at the appropriate time it was good to bring travelers back. And it was called Adventure Week Rebound Nepal, and it's been very successful. So we can hit on that later. And of course what we do is focus on people, planet, profit. But this is our priority, to be honest. Business first, profit, because you cannot positively affect either any of the other stuff unless you have a profitable organization. So we concentrate on that. We are a business strategy organization, and that's what we encourage everyone to focus on. When you're profitable, then you can affect very strongly all the other aspects. So now I would like to contextualize Finland and let you understand why I'm here. So now I'm a resident of the Nordic region now, and one of the things that I've been doing for about the last 7 years is trying to draw more attention to a part of the world that I think is in for a serious wake-up call. You've got climate change. Climate change in particular, combined with the fact that within 15 years you will see another billion travelers on the planet. So right now there's 1.2 billion. In less than 15 years you will see another billion travelers. Also climate change. You're going to see an onslaught of travelers to this region. We're already seeing it. You've probably heard the stories in Iceland and Norway already. I won't pick on them. It's just they're kind of the beachhead of where it's coming, and it's just going to keep creeping. You can anticipate that. So what the ATTA, and I happen to be leading this particular project, is to try to get the entire Nordic region to work together. And I know there are projects already underway in various circumstances on different subject matter, but to get the region to work together on like a 50-year vision and plan on how are we going to protect this very sensitive part of the world. Okay, so you all know the Nordic destinations, but tell me what you see on this slide. So, in fact, I think this is even wrong because that one expired. So, the thing is, for the Nordic region effort to work, I need you all involved. You know, we need you all involved. Visit Finland was engaged as a member of the ATTA, and like many other organizations, and by the way, this is not picking on Finland, this is, okay, now we can start engaging. Visit Finland was a member for, I think, 2 years, from 2010 to 2012. And what happens is, we all get too busy, we're short-staffed, and we don't have a lot of money, and you just can't do everything. And so that was the key issue. It was the same issue with Visit Sweden, which, by the way, now is definitely active and now helping us with a bunch of, you know, visibility programs to help draw more attention to this. So I just wanted to make you aware. This isn't a sales call, for the record. You know, you can choose to engage or not. When I'm done, my hopes are that you'll understand why you're going to say, why haven't we been involved in this years ago? And I'll explain that. So, I'm going to jump topics here just a little bit so that you understand where some of our emphasis is. And this particular slide somehow jumped out of sequence here, so I'm going to come back to that. Let's talk about the Adventure Tourism Development Index. This is a program that the ATTA, a study that the ATTA undertook as a result of myself and another colleague attending ITD, the largest tourism show in the world, in 2006. And they did the World Economic Forum tourism competitive index. Well, that entire index, it's great. It measures basically how much money destinations spend on developing tourism infrastructure, and it counts heads and beds, turnstiles, flights, really the things that don't, in the end, truly contribute to a destination. And we're like, what the hell, that doesn't make any sense for what we're doing. So a team of us went together and we said, let's flip that on its lid. So we did. And we created the Adventure Tourism Development Index, which measured other things of value. I won't go through all of these. There's a full background on the Adventure Tourism Development Index. But the idea is 10 different pillars that matter to responsible tourism development that leaves a positive economic benefit in destinations. So, and we'll be hitting on safety, but safety is a key thing. Safety and risk management, sustainable development policies, how many assets, adventure activity resources, natural resources, cultural, the infrastructure, and so on. The climate for entrepreneurship. So all of these things, we use existing studies from around the world that deal with all of these topics. And we crunch them together, and then we apply a second layer to this study, which is, I think it's over 400 experts from around the world who have at least 5 years extensive experience in each destination that's featured in the study, who give rankings on all of these things, and then the scores come up. And it's a competitive index, and it indicates where these different destinations fall in their readiness for adventure tourism. It also exposes gaps. So if a destination is lacking on health, taking care of its people and such, the governments will have a better understanding on how they can do this in order to help round out the 10 pillars. Does that make sense? So each category is like this. These are just some growth things that I was mentioning earlier, but it helps to round this up. So, as far as developed countries go, you can see where Finland sat, and Norway, and Sweden. Very high in the rankings for developed nations. Immediately what happens with destinations who are closely monitoring this, they say, why did we lose points this year? Why did we go up? Actually, the margin of difference is so very close on a lot of these. So one factor that changes for any given destination can influence it quickly. So you're in the top 10, so I wouldn't worry too much about, you know what I mean? I wouldn't worry about the specifics and, within a few. If you see a significant drop in a year, you're going to want to pay attention to that. But you guys rank very high on this, so I just wanted to give you context for where you are. I won't get into details, and I'm not the expert on Finland, so I can't say here's exactly why you went up or down, but there is data on that. So the team that's behind this could help with that. So
Chris,
we can address that.
One question. What do you see as the main attractions of Finland for a nature tourist abroad planning to travel somewhere?
Okay. We're going to get to that very specifically. I'm taking it from the global and I'm bringing it down to the local. So I will hit that very point in probably 20 minutes here, 15 minutes, okay? And as I said, please forgive me. I know this will be a bit longer than typical, but because of the depth of what I've seen here and where you all are in that tracing cycle, I need to broaden some of the discussion so that we can get to the specifics. So trends. These are headlines. I won't dive into them too deeply here, but these are things that we're monitoring and paying attention to. If you look back 30 years, there was a way tourism was done. Well, technology, the way the world's turning right now, our entire supply chain is morphing. Everything's changing. You all have direct access to consumers all over the world, right? I mean, that's one thing. The financial models, the way distribution channels work, the way agencies work, and so on, it's just changed. So that world has completely upended. So we have to think differently about how we're doing business. We all know this. We were even talking about the human migration issue because of the scarcity of resources around the world. So just the refugee crisis is a perfect example of what Europe has to cope with from here on out. And it's only the tip of the iceberg. You know, these are big things, so globally this is happening. Population, yeah, we talked about that. Serious evolution, traveler demands. I'll hit that in a deeper slide, but things are changing. And then you all are seeing this. I've heard about more craft products, you know, it could be wine, beer, beer certainly in this area, foods, you know, these type of things. The how do you say it again?
Kuksa.
Kuksa, but there's another name, Kupika.
Kupilka.
Kupilka. I'm trying.
It's a
I'm learning.
product name.
Oh, okay.
It's a
I see.
manufacturer.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you for that. Also, this of course, this is happening at a national level, for example, in the United States, and certainly it's happening here as well. I see it in Sweden. But the organic food aisles are growing. The herb offerings, spice offerings that are locally, etc., all of this is growing. Travelers, like I said, the leisure tourism market's heading in our direction because they see the richer, deeper value. And then the movement away from manufactured experiences. So just going and experiencing what's real. So I've been joking around a little bit about, please don't put a zip line in, because the zip lines are available everywhere. You have a lot more to offer besides the zip line. Sure, there's a market for that. It'll happen here, maybe, but I wouldn't put too much energy into that particular area. Boy, I am not sure how some of these pieces jumped around. I'm going to come back to this. Let's stick on trends here. Customization. It's like the number one, one of the number one emphasis points is people want it the way they want it, when they want it, how they want it, etc. So whether it's FIT or full-on travel groups and such, even within that context they want it. When families are traveling, you know, the mom or the father and daughter might want to go mountain biking, and the mom and other daughter might want to go kayaking, things like this. So we need to be paying attention to that. New sports all over the world. In particular in the Nordic region, a lot of what you all have done for many, many years, most people haven't done and don't know about them. There's sailing on ice, there's long skates, there's, you know, all sorts of different, like the reindeer herding and such. Most people didn't even know they could get involved in that. So there's all these new activities coming. Clearly technology. We talked a lot this last couple days about multi-generational travel and luxury leaning towards adventure and adventure leaning more towards luxury. These are natural evolutions of what's going on with tourism here. And as I said early on, mainstream tourism is starting to embrace this. Even cruise ships are now offering more opportunities to connect with local cultures. They're offering kayak trips right off the ship. You know, you can do day tours on cycle from there. That wasn't offered even maybe 10, 15 years ago. They've got climbing walls on the ships now. You know, so these things. Resorts also are trying to figure out a way to extend beyond ski, and so they're converting, of course, ski resorts into mountain biking tracks in the summer and so on. And adventure becoming softer, which we talked about. So, industry snapshot. Every year we poll our 700-800 tour operators around the world. These are both inbound and outbound. And then I would say about every year we get more than 300 responses. So a few things pop up from our snapshots. And you know how the word, this works, the larger the word, the more popular. So these, it's just a quick glance if you want to soak that in for a minute. So you'll notice in the top 10 here, Finland is right in the crosshairs. So you're in a good place. I'll get out of the way there. Look at we talked a lot about photography this last couple days. Look at how, so it reaffirms what many of you are saying you're experiencing in the region. All right, the big business trends. As we develop tourism around the globe, this is the #1 thing that we're talking about in the industry, the trade. And why? It's because of this one figure right here. We've done this study year over year for the last 3 years. And in our form of tourism that we're talking about, it is believed that 65 cents on every US dollar stays in destination, as compared to what you'll find in all the major studies for tourism, mass tourism, resorts, cruise industry, city tourism, things like that, which is where only somewhere between 5 cents and 17 cents on every dollar stays in destination. 17% at the high end and 5% at the low end. Even if this figure is half wrong, it's still twice mass tourism's potential to affect GDP in destinations. So this is a trend that we're paying attention to, and as we've discussed over the last few days, people are spending more, you know, this is just local handicrafts and souvenirs locally, and that's going to be increasing and increasing. I just spent basically €200 for stuff I've been looking at for years and always wanted, a knife and these type of things. And you know, I don't tend to spend I don't tend to spend a lot of money unless it's handcrafted and very, very culturally distinct, and then I get really excited. So I buy art a lot, especially when it's on things I can roll up, like cloth and things like that from local communities. So, trip price, we won't go through all these are just glimpses, but you can see the per day spent for adventure tourism and by destination. Again, you'll all get the presentation here. Okay. Trip length, people stay longer. And so one of the aims, so the charge, the request from Titta here was to focus primarily on Kuusamo and Ulanka, and so that's what a lot of my discussion will be when we get into the discussion. But we also need to think more broadly about how this piece fits into the broader part of Finland and the region in general.
Chris,
yes.
Could you go one slide back, please? It looks like that North America is about double the spendage of Europe. How can that be? Can you explain that?
This is a reflection of what our tour operators indicate the spend is. I don't have the in-depth knowledge of the nuances of each of these.
Being American, can you tell what is the reason of that big difference? We're doing something wrong?
Pardon?
Are we doing something wrong?
No, let me just go to this slide here.
Yeah. Our prices are too cheap.
Yes, we're too shy.
Actually, there is an issue around that, and we've had part of the discussion. I don't have a perfect answer for that, to be honest, and I would have to dig into that a little bit more. But there is an issue about pricing, and where destinations are pricing themselves down, which often happens because they're trying to compete, they're trying to catch the ice. It's absolutely the wrong strategy.
Yeah.
You should do the opposite. You should raise prices and you should feel good about it because you're offering deeper experiences. The value proposition is where you need to spend your time and energy, and you need to show people why you're charging a premium. We just went through the brand wheel exercise yesterday, last night, and we'll hit that like when we get into the discussion phase. Maybe we can bring that up as part of it. But there's so much more value here, and if you're able to tell the stories about that value, you have to make no excuses for what you're charging.
Veikko is asking, based on your experiences in Kuusamo, do you think we have more or less product development gap in cultural experiences, storytelling, etc.?
I'm sorry, can repeat that one more time?
Based on your experiences in Kuusamo, do you think we have more or less a product development gap in cultural experiences?
I think you all know the answer to that because we've been having great discussions, which is there is a gap, but it's more about how you package it up. I think that's the issue. It's not that you don't have the product. I think you have other product that you're not aware of, which we'll be talking about. But I think in large part it's just about how do you package it up, like the Angry Bitches program. I mean, they have it figured out. That's a great concept. And it's your own.
Something you remember from this.
I'm telling you, that stuff will go over really well in America. I'm telling you.
Name it right. And then
I'm serious. I mean, yeah. We were even talking about the name of base camp. I mean, if you do it, if you name it something that people can relate to, you know, definitely. And you already know this, but the Finnish language is so extraordinarily unique. It's very difficult for people to understand, you know, the really long names and things like that. And one of the things I really appreciated once when I traveled in Greenland, it was actually one of my favorite cultural experiences. They spent an entire evening, like a 2.5-hour evening over food and beverage and stuff, teaching the Greenlandic language. And they did it in this really cool spot. You have a gift, and it is an extraordinary language that people don't know about, and they don't know the origins, and it makes it mysterious, and I would leverage something like that. So that's a cultural piece that I think you should add into almost all of your products. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It could be an hour of fun, you know, making light of it a little bit, and have people practice aloud and things like that, and it helps invite them into your culture. So to me, the Greenlandic people did a great job with that. It was really exciting, and it was very difficult. You know, we were trying to learn the letters and all of this, and anyway, it bonded everybody in the group, so when you talk about group management, it actually is really fun, because then you get all of your group travelers working together and practicing. So anyway, again, we'll hit some more of that when we get into discussion. All right, so we do also other studies about the consumers, and this particular one, we've done elements of it, and then a big North American outdoor magazine called Outside Magazine, we collaborated and we came up with adventure personas. And again, I will move fairly swiftly through this just so you get the general context, but you can dive into this later. And there are actually articles on adventure travel news and in our research center that you can just download. These are free. Some of our studies are free. I think this particular one is. And if it's not, I will send it to all of you with no cost, of course.
Chris,
yes?
Where we can find this presentation after this meeting?
I will put it on a G drive and make it accessible to Titta, and then she can put it on a WeTransfer or whatever for everyone. And of course I have to adjust. I literally don't know what happened. Some of the slides popped out since this morning. So I'll clean that up.
Yeah, and I propose that if you guys online send me an email that you want to have Chris's presentation, so I know where to send the material.
Yes, and please include company name, your title, you know, what your organization is about, so that I know who all attended here. And if you're watching this after, not live, please send information to Titta as well, so that we can understand who's been a part of the program, because we want to make sure all of Finland is coming up to speed on these broader concepts. Thank you. All right. So the adventure traveler personas. So we all in this room grew up thinking demographics mainly, right? Age bracket, you know, how many kids, how much income, that type of stuff. That's what the old industry was built on. It's not the case anymore. There's some relevance for that, but it's really attitudinally, motivationally, the psychographics, the way people think, the way people are moved, that define who they are, what kind of traveler they are. In the case of adventure travelers, we've simplified this into 3 core categories. The grazer, adventurer, and enthusiast. Simply put, a grazer is a novice person. It might be a former all-inclusive resort person who now maybe has, you know, 2 or 3 different country trips, and now they decide, you know what, I want to get outside of the confines of the resort, and I want to go experience the culture. I want to go for a bike ride, a deeper tour, something like that. So they're more interested in pursuing bucket list and then sampling activities. So they might go out and go cycling for a day, they might raft for a day, they might engage in a, wine crushing, something like that for a day, just to kind of get a sampling. And they're risk averse, mainly. So they're just not geared, like, we were talking about the trail, the Karhun Kiernas. That trail, you were talking about the interpretive center, and it's difficult for some people to go from the interpretive center to the first rapids. That's a hike for some people. They're just not used to something like that. So that's what we have to keep in mind for the grazer. They might try it. Oh, it's not so scary. Okay, on my next trip, maybe I'm going to go on a longer hike, maybe a 5K hike, and so on. So this is that category. Adventure, these are people who, moderate risk, still a bit risk averse, but they know some basic skills. Like they've been rafting before, maybe class 3 rafting. They are cyclists, but they're not hardcore cyclists. They like to hike, but they only want to go like on the small bear trail for the day, because that's pretty much the extent of their experience. That's the adventure, but they're open. They're going to go and get a little bit deeper into the activities. Versus an enthusiast category, which is experience, always looking for the best place, always looking on the horizon. Their skill set kind of helps to remove the risk worries. I think in my maybe late teens, I was more here, and then I moved heavily into here, and now I'm somewhere in between. Of course, I'm experienced, but I've got 3 little kids at home now and an older one, and if I get injured, I can't move around. I'm in my career, I've got to pay attention. So I'm doing a lot less high-risk activities. Being over 50, it's like I don't heal as fast. So this, you have to think about the aging also of your adventure travelers. So, characteristics of the grazer. You can just kind of glance through here. It does include some of the demographic information, just so you can kind of categorize where they are. Younger person, we were talking about, in America we call it outdoor deficit disorder. People aren't in contact with nature anymore. I mean, in a general sense, people are urbanized. And in the United States, there are significant initiatives to try to get people to get back out into the outdoors again. We were talking about that quite a bit. Risk, some risks, but the grazer. They're okay to take some risks, but they have to be heavily guided. Like they have to have somebody with them to coax them along. So they're risk averse, but they're open to trying it if they can get a quick adrenaline rush. Think about zip lines. That's kind of a really safe, in general terms. There's been very few accidents globally. It's kind of a contained, manufactured experience. Personal values, nothing better for a grazer to take a photo, like this, where, like a perfect example in Yellowstone National Park, where the grazer's trying to get close to the bison. They're taking pictures, but then the bison mauls them. They don't know, but they want to share so badly on social media what they've done. They're motivated by that a lot. In terms of the adventurer, you will, right here, educated, medium-high income, age, a little bit older, has children, and then they want to become more skilled in an activity. So when you design product and such for this particular category set, you can include a lot of training aspects to what you're doing. You're teaching, like Henrik, exactly, was reminding us, I used to canoe quite a bit, but I hadn't done it for 20 years. So his education to get us back into the rhythm of doing that was key. So it was really helpful. Personal values, family and security first, probably more financial security, but
they need accomplishment that motivates them. And then key characteristics of the enthusiast. This varies, by the way, based on activity, because some activities women are far more active in than men, and so the study kind of reveals some of that. They're pretty experts, always want challenge, risk, that adrenaline. Oftentimes, these are the people that will try the activities that are new, different, unusual, and so on. So if you're going after enthusiasts, like for example, if you are going to connect the 4 parks, the Land of National Parks, and you're going to do it by cycle touring, it may be that you want to pursue this particular set of people, the cycling enthusiasts first, and let them tell the story for you a bit more. So it might be a way to get that product adopted faster. It's just a concept. Motivations. Only one of these surprised me, and it was this one, adventurers. And again, because I'm here and here, when people described what the motivations were, the relaxation, which seems antithetical to adventure. You know, although, like we were talking about, VACO was, there's a particular hypothesis that says closer to nature, less stress. So perhaps that's what they're equating this to. It gives you that relaxation. But that one actually surprised me a little bit, because when I think of adventure, you know, I'm thinking about the activity. Of course it makes me feel better to be outdoors, but that pursuit. All right. Again, by the way, this is all from the North American lens, you saw on that first slide. But this is relatable regardless of culture, regardless of source market. There will be nuances in between, but the general characteristics are fairly similar regardless of destination. We're now pursuing to do the same study in Europe, and I know that some of your key source markets, of course, are right here in Europe. So when that study becomes available, we'll have more insights. But here are some of the key activities by these characteristics, if you want to just glance at it a bit here. In the global report on adventure tourism, there's a list of activities. There might be 60 adventure activities that are listed there. So these are just some of the key ones. All right, moving.
One question, can you turn
Sure.
back the slide? You mentioned that the backpacking, hiking and trekking is the top activity. In Finland, Sari, this is perhaps more of a question to you and other people around the table. How do you see the backpacking activity as in popularity here? We have been talking about it quite intensively within Parks and Wildlife Service that this group will be diminishing, but there are some indications that it's becoming more and more popular. How do you perceive these people here?
Well, from our point of view, we have seen that people are more keen on the day trip trails. That's what they want to do. So in that sense, I don't know if you think about Åland, I don't know if the number of those who go for the longer trail is smaller, but those who come for the day trip trails, the number of those people is much higher.
Any other thoughts on that?
I have 3 questions. First, Petri Kulha from Kiilopää Fell Center. We run our weekly outdoor activities using our volunteer guides. I'm thinking, is this value that we should bring it in the same line with good food, smoke sauna, etc.? Can it sell?
The volunteer guide program? As in have travelers participate and learn how to be a guide?
It's volunteers that actually take in customers, and it's not professional guides, it's like volunteer-based guiding. I think that's what he's after.
So the guides are members of this association and they participate in the association's activities by guiding group of travelers.
I see. Yeah, there's, I would say yes, with the big issue with travelers, in particular, parts of Western Europe and certainly North America, is liability, right? Safety and risk management. And volunteer guides aren't going to have the same level of safety and guide proficiency as, say, a professional guide. And so you have to balance that. But what we've been talking about on the last couple of days here is the lack of storytelling in Finland that helps bring a destination alive. But you all have crazy good stories. I mean, I've been laughing a lot here. So even your humor brings a lot of color to the destination. So what you might do is pair up the volunteer guides within the association with maybe a commercial operation. Engage people in that. Maybe they, even though they're volunteering, who knows, maybe part of their payment is, they get to engage in a great dinner or the adventure experience along with a commercial outfitter. I don't have a perfect answer for that. It's a blend, but you have to think safety first. So handing over any guiding to a volunteer poses a completely different set of liability issues, insurance issues.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the association that Petri Kulha represents, they are the ones creating different kind of guiding programs, and the volunteers, they are also very, very professional in regards to safety issues and guidance issues.
Yeah, they are trained for that.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can learn more about the association and I can respond in greater detail, just so I understand the full context.
Maybe the voluntary aspect is that they are not doing it like for their main work, but just doing it from their free time.
The
But
passion.
they are still fully trained. I think that's what it could mean.
Yeah, and that passion, when that comes through, again, now, the value that the traveler gets here escalates. So if you have those passionate people really giving people this just high value experience, and we'll talk about the customer journey as it relates to experiences. Value creation is what we call it in experience design, where you modulate when and where the adventure traveler has extraordinary moments, and when they're vulnerable and you can give them that one push to have them have the goosebump moment, and then you bring them down just a little bit. You don't want to keep it at a high ramp all the time. You want to modulate them and then bring it to a crescendo, then bring them down, and then remind them what they just experienced before they get on the plane. So there's a way to do that.
One comment on the schedule. There's a break for coffee now, so can we all grab a cup of coffee and then pose the questions simultaneously while having some of that coffee?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I would encourage you to do that all the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. Grab a warm up.
But if there are other questions, now the people are going for coffee, so please post the questions.
Please define us, what is the difference between hiking, trekking and backpacking? Or is there a difference?
So we have the three categories because that's how operators around the world have defined those particular activities. Hiking is going to most likely be a day activity. Trekking is going to usually be an extended excursion, as is backpacking. But the trekking is going to be more expedition oriented. I would argue trekking, backpacking is essentially the same.
Yeah, okay. Then mountain biking is inexistent on the list. Is it physically too demanding or too risky for adventure travelers?
No, I just think as an adventure activity over the last few years, it's just come onto the scene as being a true adventure travel offering. So I sense, and our industry is reflecting it, that mountain biking is also going to be in a very steep climb. Not to make a pun, but we're seeing increased commitment by existing outfitters who never previously offered mountain biking, now offering it, and new mountain biking adventure companies popping up all over the place, on all continents, not just Europe or North America. Okay, on YouTube, go get some coffee. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Did you see the news from TripAdvisor yesterday about the animal tourism?
Oh, what was that?
Yeah.
they have decided to ban all the activities where people can touch wildlife.
Who did that?
TripAdvisor.
Ah, okay.
So
Okay.
385 million people using it, and so that is quite a interesting opening, and I believe it's because when you look at the associations that are working together with TripAdvisor, that like PETA and WHO, I believe it's going to increase from there. So we have to be prepared here also, the companies who provide anything that is dealing with animals, that something like this is increasing and is going to be more looked at. How
Agreed. I'm certain of that. In fact, we have, like Intrepid in 2010, actually banned all elephant rides. It was the first, it's the largest adventure travel company on the planet, and they decided we can't do this anymore. And you see circuses in North America no longer allow the elephants, and I think they're including other animals as well. So wildlife is being removed out of the circus industry.
Yeah, this the news yesterday, it specifically described 3 activities. Elephant riding was one of them. The other one was swimming with dolphins, and the third one was the tiger puppy stroking.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a significant issue.
What about then like animal rescue centers that are making some money to keep the business, to keep the operation up by letting people in to come and see the animals, but then there's just to see and like the bear center that's working here, for example, they are rescuing orphan cubs, and then of course once they are tamed, they get used to people, then you can't put them back anymore because then they go to human environment. But there you cannot touch them, you can see them. So there's a delicate difference, I guess, from touching. Because then, how about all the animal rescue centers that they
like
need
Norden's Ark in Sweden, which is incredible.
They need the money from the people to keep this rescue operation going, so they need to sell tickets and people go and see the bears here, for example, which we have a lot, plenty in the wilderness as well. But, so I guess there's a delicate balance there. Or how do you see that, then if this is the trend, then what to do with the animal rescue centers selling tickets?
Yeah, that's a field of expertise that's way beyond me, because, I mean, World Wildlife Fund is working on that, the largest wildlife conservation organization in the world, with whom we're partnering, and now we have conservation travel programs with World Wildlife Fund. So we keep working on these things, and there's no easy path. It's going to be an evolutionary process. Yeah, I don't know. Those are challenging subjects.
Actually, there's a demand to develop some kind of like quality guidelines and this kind of certificate that when these centers, because they obviously do valuable work, but some take the benefit of it and don't treat the animals well, so there's the needs to be some kind of maybe global, maybe aerial organization that is taking care of assessing the places for offering this kind of things.
We should really teach our staff and everybody working in tourism to be better in storytelling. That's our problem. We are too shy of our culture. We think it's not good enough compared to many other cultures. So I think that's the Finnish, being modest and shy. When great European cities had their first universities being built up in the medieval ages, we were still running barefoot in the woods. But that's us. That's what probably bring it up. We are too shy about that. That's the problem. It's everyday life for us. So people think like, is it interesting? Because for us it's everyday. But then once you start talking about life, people are just so blown away by how we go still pick up berries and mushrooms, the sauna everywhere, and
Yeah.
Or the example of our language, like you say.
I'm sorry?
Like the example of our language.
Yes, our
how
language,
funny it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I used to be a guide.
It's just a pain in the ass, you like.
Well, we had a small activity for our clients in Turkey. We had a sunset drink with learning Turkish language. It was on 1 hour in the terrace and the restaurant get the business. And we had fun with our customers who had fun by learning Turkish language. Same when I was in Fiji Island a long time ago. There was one activity of that little island. We were in the Castaway Island. They had the evening there by learning Fiji language. And I can still say, Auna vesutale mai, I will come back. I still remember that.
Yeah.
So, easy things to organize.
Yeah.
Even though you never ever need Fijian language or Finnish.
You never
know. You never know, but it's
Safaris has the Lappish evening, the Lapland buffet that they have on their weekly program. So they have a short Finnish lesson in that after eating lunch.
And that gives you a reason to buy that instead of doing something else.
Yeah, then when we are doing Christmas programs, we teach the kids to sing a Finnish Christmas carol to Santa in Finnish and then talk about the family things. And Spaniards, French, everybody learns to sing Joulupukki, first 2 verses. So there's something there, but we should do it more. Because I think Finns are really intelligent to invent such a difficult language. You know, I think that's where it becomes totally different from any. We haven't been copying anybody. You know, no Hebrew, Latin, Arabic, nothing, no relations. You know, we just came up with the. We should be proud of that. You know, we're really smart.
And it's a
No copying anybody. Yeah, a computer is a computer in any language. We have tietokone. Come on, how clever is that?
No, that's a nice approach.
Yeah. We don't copy any words from anywhere.
No, but that's true because in Swedish we
We
find
make
a lot
our
of
own
words
words.
that comes from English or any other language, but Finnish is Finnish.
Our ancestors have been pretty clever, you know.
Chris, we even have Stockholm, Bookholm.
Not copying anybody. Yeah.
There was one thing I was wondering, you know, in the presentation was that the trips are getting longer. Some other what are they? Studies prove that people have less and less time to make holidays. They want to be effective. They want to have like a short breaks more than longer holidays. How does this
concurrent trends?
Yeah.
Which also addresses some of what they were just talking about. There's concurrent trends that are.
This local journalist wants to interview. Very short.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, aina vähän riskejä. Niin kilpailu.
Niin, no ne on semmoista.
Täytyy kanssa laittamaan niskasta.
Siellä on vielä se on.
Sulla on varmaan jalkavällä siinä kipeä tosin karkuun.
Tätä kannattaa hyödyntää.
Niin, no, mutta joo, meidän pitää vaan keksiä sillä, että nämä EML mun nimet ole.
Joo, niin.
Mä voin lähettää sillä vinkki.
Se on varmasti niin pelottava heille. Puhutaan ekstremismistä.
Niin, ne ei ole sellaisia oikein aktiivi-ihmisiä. Ne saa ne kiksit, jos ne pääsee metsään, mutta seisomaan vaan vähän aikaa. Ei tarvitse tehdä mitään.
Ja se metsä voi olla just tämä piha. Tämä puisto.
Niinpä, meidän takapihan suurin piirtein. Kyllä. Joo, se on vähän erilaisempi kohde.
Jotain esimerkiksi
Niin, joo, se ei mene, ei ne ole niin korkein.
Mitä ihmettä, mitä positioita tarvitaan, kun positiot on joku sanalla.
Pohjoismaiset kielet. Suomi on miksi? Mut sit välillä tulee semmonen, että ruotsi.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Joo, nopeasti.
Siis mä oon jakanut kaikki koko
Miksi käytetään energiaa?
Joku kommentoi. Joo. Ruotsin kieli oli semmoinen kauniimpi kieli. Ja sitten meillä oli kaveripiirissä yksi, joka sanoi, että mitä sä voit sanoa.
Tämä on nyt se alus.
Niin, kiitos. Heinäsaaren kaunis. Ei kun Hellänen. Ruotsiksi. Jei!
Enemmän porukoita, enemmän kaikkea. Ihan koko homma. No Tui-konsernihan on se meidän pääasiallinen. Nyt on ensi vuonna on noin 650 kuussautta Tuin kautta. He on ilmoittanut 2019 heitä meille. Tuin kanssa jako tulee olemaan niin noin 650. Mikä se on sitten se, mikä on niin talvea, koska me ollaan joulukuun puolivälistä, toukokuun puoliväliin, sitten se jatkuu viikon välistä heti jatkuu salamaan ja sitten se on vaan se lokamarraskuun, joka on sitten polman jälkeen. Se on se tulevaisuus. Tuivoonta, se on luonnollinen Manchester. Joo,
oliko tuossa edellisenä iltana vielä?
Voitti on tullut koko ajan, mutta meillä ei Voitin kanssa ollut yhteistyötä. Se johtuu siitä, että meidän laitetaan software, että se tuo. Meidän pitää toinen päivä olla software, että se toimii. Jos on ihan peruspaketti 420, me ei lähetä sen. Meillä on pitkä nyt tänä talvena, niin on se keskimmäisen vuorokaudessa. Sitten nämä indeksit, mitä meillä on,
Ei, onko jo tuossa siitä,
ihan se tieto.
siitä digipaketista jotain raporttia?
Mä oon ollut Virkkusen Paavolla seurannassa siitä, että meillä on raportit tullut.
Sitä velosta vielä eteenpäin se, ja sitten ennen sitä reissua
Jos on joku versio siitä, niin mä voisin laittaa tuohon luontomatkailun suunnitelmaan.
Ja sitten Sulamainen on tietenkin sitten niin näille patikoille se palvelupaikka. Se on henkilöön ilmeisesti vilkkainen palvelu. Me ei tehdä rahaa, koska me käy vesissä. Olen onnellisesti, jos saa suomalaiset jättää
Joo, aivan.
jos maksamisen 2 viikkoa aikaa tehdä.
kaikki Hollannissa. Hollanti on semmoisen Hollannissa
Olisi kiva, kun sulla on hirveä hoppu ja noin muuten ei ole hyvät ne aloilla.
Musta se on joku langaton verkko.
Joo.
Niin, joka kertahan on mennyt sellainen.
Okei.
Olin kotona, kun se viestimisen katsotko, kun olet toimistolla?
Kysykö?
Painopistehän on tuo kellokenkäällä aivan ja sitten meillä itsellä täällä, meillä oli 26 hanketta, me tehtiin
Kaikki MH-viiva.
hallinto-oikeuden valituksen.
Mä esittelin kanssa, mä katsoin, se oli vähän.
Niin silloin me tehdään myöskin, me tehdään sen hankella.
Ihan sellaista. Siinä paljon laitoin kysymyksen, että hyvästi jaksoin, että tarkoitat edes minulla.
Kerran kirjoittanut tuolla
meillä niin tavoitteena. Ja sitten kun se saadaan olla metsää, niin sitten käytetään. Tämä me aloitetaan nyt Sarja ja kumppanin aktiviteettikeskuksessa samanlaista, mikä se jossain. Eli se ei ole käynyt läpi, se ei saa vastaan.
Niin, siellä on viittaus. Katsotaan Metsähallitus. No niin, liian helppo.
Niin, ja niin jollain tapahtuikoille jotain. Se on koko ajan jotain menossa siellä sisällä. Se ei ole semmoinen virkeä.
Missä se oli? Hamkissa oli seminaari, ja se sana oli savupiippu.
No niitä aina keksii.
Pitää puhua Suomen lentoliikennestrategiaa.
Sitten me lähdetään siihen, kun se 2007 meidän tulee nyt ihmisiä töihin, ja ne hoitaa
Kyllä mekin ollaan mukana kuulemma. Kyllä mekin ollaan mukana.
Joo.
Ei tänään. Meillä on vasta ensi huone.
Joo, siis tämähän on ollut
Mä kun käytiin. Ehkä se on sitten joku toinen. Onko siellä joku jätteessä? No ei näitä siltä ole siellä niin.
Varsinkin nyt tänä kesänä on ollut Ivalolla taas. On ollut pelkästään se kolmilento. Nämä ryhmät on varannut ne paikat, jotka on nyt Ivalolla ahtelaisille. Tämä on sitten aika lentomatkustajissa, just teidän tästä lentomatkustajissa 30% pudotus kesällä Kittilässä, mutta levillä 20% kasvu levillä kesällä.
Melkein niin kuin Saksassa pitkin.
Samoin voimantekijöilläkin oli 21% heinäkuussa kasvu. On varmasti nämä kesälennot
Okay.
Miten ne katsoo sen kesän, puhuuko ne kesästä 3 kesäkuukauden ja sen mukaan mikä on se kesä? Ne laskee niin sen.
Shall we get started? Excuse me. There's a few more things to jump through, and then we will shift discussion very specifically, especially to like some of the questions we've been hearing from those watching on YouTube. So, increasing importance on many different levels is safety and risk management. As a global trade organization, we have responsibilities not only to the businesses in the industry, but we have to care for and protect travelers. If we have accidents with consumers, it can destroy the concept, it can destroy travel to a destination, or at least delay progress and growth. For example, years back, I think 2011, 2010, Switzerland, for example, had a major adventure accident, canyoning. I think 11 people perished there, and it was a safety and risk management issue. And it really soiled the reputation of Switzerland. There are examples all over, boating accidents, ferry accidents, all sorts of things that go on that directly stall progress and growth. Also, globally, more and more people are suing each other, and in particular in North America. So attention to this as a major trend is essential. Everything that you do, especially in this climate, because it's a harsh climate in here in your prime season, winter. And a lot of international travelers who don't have experience, they might go out on a hike in sandals and it's cold and cloudy, and 3 hours later it could be snowing, and they're in shorts and they get hypothermic, and then you have to deal with the repercussions of all of that. So we have to think about these things. We pay attention to things like guide to guest ratio, obviously all the technical training, first aid, but you can see the general ratio of guide to guest here, not only on safety and risk management, but also on group management, on making sure that that's a high value experience for the traveler. So it's just a little excerpt I pulled out just to indicate that. To convey to you how important we believe this, over the last 3 years we set out, the concept started in particular for the ATTA in 2013 at our Adventure Travel World Summit, which was held in Namibia, where we worked with the trade and committed to a universal guide standard, a universal guide and performance standard. And it deals with various aspects, group management, minimum impact camping, so environmental sensibility, first aid, wilderness first aid, first responding, things like that, which influenced and actually was formalized earlier this year. We had 23 countries involved with the development of these, and they're all active participants still as like committee members who are helping to keep this current, keep it updated. This has become a part of the ATTA's Global Adventure EDU program. So we have many education and training programs, of which the immersive field guide training program is a part. The ATTA's Adventure EDU, it's sanctioned, endorsed by the UNWTO, and it helps both public and private sectors better understand the notion of adventure tourism, the economic impact, the legal issues, all aspects of development. So for the ATTA, we tend to work on 6 to 10 year development cycles for destinations, so that within that period we expect those destinations to be able to sustainably train by then you'll have guides or trainers who can then train the rest of your industry here. And then we take a back seat and we just continue to provide updates based on developments in the trade. So the idea is to raise the quality, professionalism, and safety of adventure tourism globally. Okay, so we bring education and training programs around the world. The destinations commission the ATTA's education and training programs, and our instructors come in. And these are not academic instructors. These are your peers in the industry who have been doing this for most of their careers. They're highly successful, and they want to give back to the industry. We contract with them, so they're making money, but they're not earning a living off of this. It's just we're offsetting their time away from their own businesses. So this is why our programs get almost everything is 9 out of 10 ranking, or 10 on our training, because you're sitting with instructors who feel your day-to-day pain and understand where you're all coming from. So this is why it's valuable. It also serves as a mechanism to tighten up connections within the industry. So if Adventure EDU were to happen in Finland, it actually helps support the cooperative nature that you have and gives people even more reason to connect. Each destination has a different set of needs and expectations. So what we tend to do is work with all the key players. We pull ahead with our partners and find out what the specific needs are. And what I've been hearing over the last couple of days is the need to be able to tell stories in particular better. That's one key thing. There are other things, but this is one that kept popping up. And so in our programs we actually have storytelling modules, how to market internationally, all of this. So we have these modules. And again, they're delivered by experts who also have operations and successfully do it. You all are very advanced in this. There's one gap, but I think you're closing in on it, on the community building, and that is the action steps that will help all of you come to a long-term vision for the region. And one of the things that for the last 4 years in particular I've been pushing is, instead of thinking in increments of 2 to 3, 5-year planning cycles, is to think 50 years down the path. Given what I've already explained about growth and what you can anticipate over the years, in 50 years, what do you want your tourism industry to look like? Here in Kuusamo and Ulanka, and certainly throughout Finland, what's the vision for that? And if you can come to terms with what you want Finland to represent, and we worked through brand positioning last night, you have to think in 50-year increments, or, I know it's difficult. We are trying to put grapes and clementines on the table every day. We have to be profitable. That's why earlier I said we have to be profitable, so we still have to keep that engine going, but we must take the time to pause and breathe and look 50 years down the path. Does Finland want to become known as one of the ultimate responsible tourism, local economic driving tourism destinations in the world? Or, by the year 2030, which is it's under 15 years away, do you want to be viewed as one who's trying to catch up with where the world's going? And that 15 years is going to go like that. I mean, just a few days ago I was serving my son food on his spoon, and now he's 18 and going to university. It's like, it just happens, as we all know. So, the Community Builder program leads to very specific action and deals with vision work. And that vision work is where people get cohesive and drive. Our guide training program is actually a core field guide training program. So most of that course is actual situations, actual coursework in the field, so that what is learned and trained is what literally they will be doing once the instructors leave. And so it's designed for intermediate guides, not novice guides. These are guides who are already doing things, but they learn how to tell stories better, manage group better, and so on. So that's what that program's about. Stimulating movement. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here, in part. And to showcase a little bit about who we are globally, I'm going to walk you through a series of things that we do as the ATTA, so that when we move to the discussion around Finland, you'll have in context how we can collaborate as public sector, as private companies, and as associations, and how our work together can play off of each other. We do an annual summit. It's the Adventure Travel World Summit. It is the event annually for our sector. And we sell out every year. I just came 2.5 weeks ago from Alaska. We had 850 influencers from around the world, from 60 countries, who just spent, in some cases, 2 weeks together, and then for that 5-day conference we spent together, and intensively talked about the future of adventure tourism. That's what these events are about. It's about vision work, it's about professionalization. I'm going to show you a video, and I hope the audio is set up here. And despite what this slide says, I really don't know what happened with this slide text from this morning. But we're going to see the 2016, just a quick clip from the adventure. Oh. This is actually our 2015 Adventure Travel World Summit. Our 2016 didn't come in, but you'll get a sense about what we do at our Adventure Travel World Summit events. This was just last October.
Our industry at large needs a revolution. The actual content theme was Viva la Revolución de la Aventura. Every destination we end up in has a different flair. This one was uniquely Chilean.
We are a country that has a lot of high-quality outfitters, different ecosystems, a lot of nature. We are kind of like a hidden treasure.
It starts with the pre-summit adventures where media and buyers and others head out into the wilds of the destination, experience it firsthand.
Every step you take, you see something so beautiful, and you know there's more and more and more coming.
Then there's the day of adventure for everybody right before the summit to help them connect with each other.
in Alaska, we had 750 some people doing a day of adventure together on 35 different adventures. That's the president of Chile.
The idea for the summit is to bring speakers that can really inspire delegates to really live their passion and to bring their values into their business and also those to the community. If we're going to have this adventure revolution, we need to be responsible for that. We need to create it and lead it.
To generate real change requires collaboration between business, government, and civil society.
I really support businesses who decide to focus on ethics and work together for positive change. And I feel that is happening here.
The sessions have been great. I thought in 30 years I've learned everything, and no, there's always a new idea.
We have some great opportunities for networking and ways to engage with each other in the industry. Those include all of the different meals and networking coffee breaks. And then Media Connect, the delegates come and pitch their unique stories to over 40 international adventure travel journalists.
The ATTA and the summit is a great place to meet people that have a lot of energy to make new partnerships.
Marketplace is for suppliers to talk to travel agents and the international outbound buyers, as well as the media, about their different products that they offer.
What's important about the summit is you consistently spend time with quality people that you want to do business with, changing ideas, and it's so much more than just your normal trade show. I certainly wouldn't miss it for the world.
I am part of the travel revolution. I go around the world learning about the people so that I can get to know a member of the community in every place that I go.
The revolution for me is to get the local people involved in tourism.
We're redefining what adventure is in a way that includes sustainability.
I feel like I have a personal revolution. I'm finally finding my place within the industry.
I think part of the revolution is caring about the places you go and caring about the people you take there, because they will become ambassadors of those places that they now make their own.
Viva la revolución de la aventura.
So that's our president, Shannon Stowell. Yeah, next year, as you'll see here in a minute, we're going to Salta, Argentina. And the one thing that we hear constantly from people who attend the summit is, I just had no idea we could go to a place where people who are dealing with all the same issues can come together. So this is why it's like, we try not to use it at the ATTA with respect to indigenous cultures, but our community itself, they call themselves the tribe. And so you're going and connecting with people who are dealing with all your same issues. So it's the only place where that high level of concentration, where everybody's concentrated on the same issues, the same opportunities, pursue. So now I'm bringing it from our global event to a regional concept, which we do throughout the world. And these are Adventure Week events, which we manage and co-create with our host destination, where we develop the ultimate itineraries for adventure travelers. Okay, so we come, we do reconnaissance, we help you define what that ultimate adventure will be, and then we recruit, through marketing and publicity, we recruit the most likely buyers that will come to a destination and invest, and A-list journalists who will come. These are not, garage bloggers. These are the journalists in adventure tourism globally. So we bring them together. It's usually a 9-day program, and it's hosted by the destination, and it has a profound, this particular one I'm showing you, I'll explain why, it has a profound impact on fusing a community together and enabling you to do things that you have not yet done. So when I started hearing about what you were doing between the national parks, trying to create routes, and the potential of the Russian side of the border, despite our current political condition, which will stall that progress, but I would encourage you to keep being ready for that and keep that really tight, is developing these routes that internationally will play extremely well. This is why I was suggesting for Finland, yes, the concentration for this program and what we're talking about here is Kuusamo and Ulanka, but the way that you could develop an entire program for Finland is pretty telling. So I'm just going to show you this one from the Balkans, which, as you know, has a history of conflict. Still today, it's a big problem. And according to the UN, we're so far the only organization that has been able to bring together these 12 destinations. We just had a conference in May. So we had Kosovars working with Serbians, we had Greeks working with Macedonians, stuff that has not happened. And in fact, business deals came out of all of these events. On this particular Adventure Week, we helped broker new policies around border crossings between Kosovo, Albania, and Macedonia that are lasting. And now there are commercial bike tours in between these three destinations. So it can happen anywhere. You just have to be committed and focus on local economic impact. So here's just a little glimpse at what we did there.
What makes a place special? Is it the vastness of a landscape that remains pristine? Is it maintaining age-old traditions?
Shut up this other light.
Or is it the readiness for its people to move beyond past differences and share their rich, authentic culture with the world?
Not just to travel and to be on the coast and visit different sites, but actually to have real authentic experiences from the region.
We're one of the last Mediterranean countries without spoiling the coastline too much. You have to come with an open mind here. Take it as a place for educated travel, not for mass market tourism.
This is a cultural gem of the world. We've been learning from people that in our history we've been trained to fear. Here, fear is stripped down in the region. The people here are open, they're friendly, and they talk about living side by side, regardless of whether they're Catholics or Christian Orthodox or Muslim. There is some richness here that I think a lot of people are going to be excited to experience.
There is a little-known place that's seldom experienced. Unique, raw, authentic. The Western Balkans.
So 2 years later, we followed up with this event that I just told you about, and we have about 280 delegates. About 200 of them were from the 12 destinations, and I have to say destinations because they're not all recognized as countries, but for our discussion here, they're countries. They were able to meet directly with 45 international buyers and 25 A-list journalists. The results, I'm going to show one more video. The results of this have actually been astounding. This just happened in May, and in this the social media that was generated out of this and the subsequent feature stories in print magazines and all the blogging and such, in the last 10 years they haven't gotten that much coverage. So a single event at the right place at the right time with the right message, all of that leads to very powerful things. And this is just a glimpse. Oops. Boy, you won't see the glimpse. I will send you that link. It will be in here. Oh, is it there now? No. Boy, it must be in the program update. I went through the entire program this morning and it was perfect, so I apologize. That video basically shows the engagement of all of the players. It shows actually, and this was especially pertinent for the Balkans, a physical manifestation of cooperation and exchange. So we had about 150 people on one boat and almost 150 people on the other boat, changing and moving across for a full-on engagement process. And we did that as a symbolic piece for the key message that we were trying to do. which when I think ahead and the day, let's hope it happens, that more cooperation can happen with Russia and your international visitors can also go there. I know you all don't have much of a difficulty going to Russia, but the rest of us do. We want to go there. We want to end all the, the divisive rhetoric and everything, so we hope that that happens, and things like this will be really important. I told you next year's Adventure Travel World Summit is going to be in Salto, Argentina. We can get the lights now. Here, I'll get the lights. So, so when you think about the ATTA in the context of the discussion we're going to have here momentarily, think about these events that I've explained. There's Adventure Travel World Summit events, there's the Adventure Weeks, there's regional conferences, and as I mentioned earlier, we are trying to bring a regional conference to the Nordic region, okay? We have interest from Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, and it's all about timing and who's ready to invest in all of this. And I would argue that there's a way to do such a conference by engaging at least 2 destinations door to door next to each other. We've done that in other areas, and it's possible. I'm not going to dig deeply into these right now. You can read all of these later. These are just ways in which the impact of our events happen. We did introduce a concept this year. It's Adventure Advocate Group, and it's designed to support specific destinations with a recruited group of tour operators, international buyers, who become your partners to further develop the region. So it's a little bit about what we talked about. How do we know what the international buyers are going to want and those travelers? Basically, we work with destinations to develop this pool of experts who really want to invest in your destination, and they're going to help you get there. So it's an exchange program. There's marketing and meetings, and it's an advocate group that becomes yours. So this is something that all of you may want to consider as we press forward.
I have to unfortunately go to the next meeting.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see if we can develop the air traffic in the afternoon.
Okay.
Good luck. Okay, good luck. Yeah.
So, there are reasons why you would want to take that approach. It's more on the trade side. We also, as an organization, have adventure.travel. It's our consumer portal, and we have ways in which we can reach a very highly targeted group of international travelers who are entirely focused on adventure tourism. And our current database is over 150,000, and these are people who opt in to be a part of, these are consumers, travelers, who opt in to be a part of our portal. And it's a very effective group, and people can actually book right through the system there as well. All right, let's talk about Finland specifically. Before I do, any particular questions?
Did you answer the questions that were posted online? Did you have a chance?
The main attractions.
I'm sorry?
Main attractions in Finland.
Coming now.
What about the main attractions? I didn't hear the question.
Jouni Laaksonen was asking, what do you see as the main attraction of Finland for a nature tourist abroad planning to travel somewhere?
So to be fair, I've had less than 2 full days in nature, and I visited one particular area. What I know about Finland is you'll have 40 national parks, by the end of the year?
Next year.
Okay, next year, okay. You've got incredible different climate zones, topography zones, biologically diverse zones and such. And I don't have sufficient knowledge to identify specific ones, but by virtue of the fact that there are, nearly 40 national parks, that you've got marine zone with the Baltic, you've got Arctic zone, I mean, it's endless about where you could potentially develop. We also talked about the archipelago in the last couple of days, up north and west. So this is now where we're going to go, which is thinking in addition to Kuusamo and Oulanta, things to be contemplating. So I'll try to answer it in context to the bigger question here. So I wanted to start out with my view. This is a subjective view from me, Chris Doyle. You know, our other folks in the ATTA who may have better knowledge of Finland may have some different thoughts. But these are things that I thought are very strong for all of you. We already talked about the Adventure Tourism Development Index, and what that indicates is that on the 10 key pillars, you're already ranking very, very strong. And you'll be able to see where you ranked on those particular areas. I think one of the most inspiring pieces for me, and we were just talking with the local reporter here, is the level of cooperation that all of you are engaged in already. Every corner, every stakeholder is talking about cooperation, partnership. They belong to associations, they belong to Outdoor Finland, they belong to the greater Kuusamo network and all of that. For me, that's like a dream. In fact, I've shared with some of you that when I write my story about this particular visit, that is what I'm going to accentuate. I want other destinations around the world to model themselves after what I'm seeing here. As I mentioned before, somebody's trying to get into the building. As I mentioned before, I think the work now is to craft that vision as a collective about what you see way down the road, and then start thinking about those actions where you can get more specific. And I've got a little bit of an exercise here that we can do. So, congratulations on the toughest part of the entire leisure tourism industry, and that's cooperation. Now, the one thing I will say is that we're always competitive. Humans by nature are competitive, right? And so there's competition even within this well-working group and well-meaning group for cooperation. But we still have the lens, destination by destination, that we're really competing with each other. Like, there's, I think, 8 different operators that offer rafting, right, in Olanka. And certainly there's got to be competition between those groups, right? And that's probably where a large part of their concern and thinking comes about. Additionally, what I've heard here is that it's not people who are originally from here who are now benefiting from adventure tourism development, but you have outsiders who see the potential and are coming here. So that creates the natural tension, right? That will always exist until you address it head on and you work together and find that out. But you're not actually competing against each other within Finland. You are competing against the Serengeti National Park. In Tanzania, you're competing against Machu Picchu. You're competing against New Zealand and its extraordinary adventure activity. I mean, it's an island of adventure, hardcore activity and such. So you're competing for mindshare. And when people think first about adventure, no one in my network, I hate to say, would first come up with Finland. Because it's just not the first thing that comes to their mind. So there's work to be done. So don't think competitively within Finland. Think competitively about the world. Work together and get that attention, raise the flag, and then let's talk about how do we share those customers. Okay, the depth of nature-based and cultural assets. I'm really pleased. I've only seen a small section of Finland, and it's like, wow. There's no question on many different levels. We've talked about some of those. You're already progressive and sophisticated in your mindset. You've got entire codes of conduct about how to work within the national parks. Parks and Wildlife Finland, it's impressive. I've read the plans. I've read the long-term vision. I don't have anything to add, really. You're on the right track. Okay, so now it's where do we go from here, and how do we evolve what you've already developed? So to me, these are very strong, especially this code of conduct. Okay, in an area where you don't actually have laws, really. I mean, you do, but when it comes to commercial operations and then freedom to roam, access points throughout Finland, in particular in national parks, you've already got a strong ethos and commitment to how you're going to work together. I've seen a lot of emphasis on quality, safety, and the traveler experience. I think you still have work here. Okay, I've seen limited examples, of course, and I think this can be even improved. And even our canoeing example, even Frederick was saying, yeah, we're trying to move to international standard, International Rafting Federation, things like that. That's exactly right. You've got funding, you know, with the right proposals, you're getting EU funding, and you have access to that if you keep working on the things that align with their Eurovision, and I don't mean the television show, which I watch every year with my wife. Focus on thematic destination development. I was really excited to hear from Titta and the group that you're now moving more towards this thematic stuff, and VACO and Slow Adventure Food and the cross-country international cooperation that you have for these thematic areas. Exactly right, and keep doing that. And then the Scandinavians in particular, you know, you're one with the land. In fact, what I hear is very similar to the original Native Americans, and it's a strategic advantage for you. Okay, jumping into where I see opportunities for all of you. With increased capacity comes increased responsibility, and it means you have to do increased planning. You're already starting down this path. I'm just underlining it and saying you've got to keep working at that. Improvements on infrastructure. Some of us have talked about really growing some of the infrastructure, but using existing things. Like there are forest trails. There are, original forestry trail, logging trails. Have we utilized all those for mountain biking or for hiking routes and things like this? I'm thinking of the carved channels through the rocks. I've got to imagine that on some of those other things there are roads that were used in later years for forestry. I saw a lot of side roads and such throughout that whole region on the eastern part of Olanka, and there's probably opportunity there. Bringing in activities like, or accommodations like base camp, perfect. I mean, that is where all the market is going. So to the degree that you might be able to look at the existing cottage network, summer home cottage network, and maybe convert some of those, it could increase your capacity. Done gradually and done only as far as necessary based on how much impact the park can have. So there's some opportunities there. This was one of the key objectives that you shared with me, and I would agree, you know, boosting local actors in the delivery of responsible adventure tourism. And I think you're in progress on that, and I'm underscoring it because I think that's a key opportunity. This thematic adventure development, I would just call that trend right. You're on the right trend. Keep down that path. The other thing, like some of you are attending World Travel Mart. Who's attending World Travel Mart? 2, 3, okay. And maybe some who are watching. This is what we are going to be talking about, but routes. We're going to be talking about how to leverage routes. So when I think about the Hanseatic League and the trading and such, you all have a very strong story with the tar and with the forestry and all of this from way back. And then you have the White Sea thematic trail, and you also, of course, the Caruna Quieros is in and of itself one of those routes, but certainly there are other routes. There might be marine routes that you could establish with kayaking routes, etc., on the west coast, and so on. So thinking in terms of routes and building off of that history, migration of people, how farming happened, how animal husbandry happened using those trails. So this is what we're starting to think about more. A great example, if you want to think through and actually see a powerful case study, and actually the person who is behind that will be my guest speaker in London, Ethna Murphy, with the Wild Atlantic Way. It's one of the most powerful route stories that have come up in the last several years. Ireland's tourism is off the hook now. I mean, and a large part because of this one route theme. It's very powerful. There are many other examples, but this one is really fresh, and I've been working with her for several years related to that project. And she just completed a lighthouse route, which now is another major thing for Ireland. So you all have some equivalents of those. You just have to discover those. The ecosystem. So we talked a little bit about the cycling route and who are all the players on that route. And from the moment people land on the tarmac, how do you engage the ecosystem to enhance that experience at every moment along the way? How do you tie in the entrepreneurs through the region? Again, you're already thinking about this stuff, and I'm underscoring it, okay? Again, this is one of your key challenges and key opportunities, and so you're still working on that, right? And you have the added burden of trying to figure out how to differentiate or how to integrate the freedom to roam and interference with commercial viability of tours. So I see that as well. So I think work needs to be done here. I think you all recognize that as well. You're all interested in international markets. I would urge you to invest time. And Veiko, you were saying, you know, should we invest time in, say, the brand wheel for international markets? I wouldn't spend my money there. I would spend my money on just understanding the adventure traveler personas and where the best concentration of those type of travelers are that you can go get. I know China is really attractive, and how many billion, and of that, they actually do have a very specific segment that is already inclined to be your best customers. I wouldn't market to all of China. I would go find who those progressive travelers are within China, because even 0.001% of the population in China is a lot of people, and you just have to find those networks. North America, I think all of Scandinavia is undervaluing the potential of your North American source market. I don't understand why the region is not marketing more directly to North America. This is ideal for us. Your language skills in English are incredible. It's very safe here. So that's a big concern with all the activity that's going on in the world that we all fear. You know, our economy's almost always relatively stable, or at least more stable than the average bear. And again, a very large population, so I would look at that.
I think it's that we don't know what the Americans want and how they really are, because when you think of Disneylands and things like that, we don't think we have the things that Americans would come here for, because we don't. We think maybe they will be not happy. We cannot satisfy their needs because we don't have the massive, large bling bling things that we generally tend to think that Americans want to eat at McDonald's, and you know, obviously we don't even have a McDonald's here. But you get my point.
I totally do. So I have two thoughts to that.
Well enough. Yeah, we don't know the market well enough. So.
Okay. So of course we can help with that, and our network can help with that. But there's a couple things. First, and this is again a trait throughout Scandinavia in particular, you're also humble and you're also understated, and you absolutely don't understand the value you have in your culture, and you don't understand how beautiful it is here, and you're also making presumptions about Americans.
Yeah.
The crap that you see on television
exactly
is not America, especially in light of what's going on right now, which I just, I would just be
yeah, you got my point. Yeah, you got the point.
I'm just, it is insanely sickening to me. But you must know that, you know, America didn't become America because we eat McDonald's and because we have an idiot or many idiots trying to become the president. We have a very sophisticated population that you don't see. You know the concept of there's so much bad news in the world? It's only because that's the stuff that scares the shit out of people, and they and we fearmonger. The media does that, and everything is distorted. So what you all see in the media is a certain percent, and it's the worst of the worst. Yes, I know McDonald's is popular, and yes, we have obesity and such, but if you are thoughtful about which markets within the United States you go after, the San Francisco Bay Area are some of the most sophisticated people on the planet, extremely professional, most of them hold passports. I would go to the Bay Area and start explaining why you should come to Finland. You know, I mean, there are people, you just have to Suspend your own disbelief about your potential, which happens all the time. I was explaining a talk I gave in Sweden. It was actually a video presentation, and I started off with a really official suit. You know, I had a suit on, tie and everything, and I was giving an official presentation, and then like 5-10 minutes into it, I said, but here's the problem with you Swedish, and I live in Sweden, so I said, here's the problem with you Swedish. Go, you just don't know how to brag, you know? And so I took off, my suit and everything, and I had a Swedish football jersey on, and I said, you gotta start owning that team. You got, and I was being really goofy in the process, but they got the message. You have to brag. You have to understand what these extraordinary assets are. You have to bake stories around them, and then you have to go sell. You have to not be intimidated by what everybody else has. The ATTA, if we had done that, 12 years ago, I wouldn't be standing here. We wouldn't have the ATTA. We just said, you know what? We're going to do what the industry wants us to do. We're going to listen to all the great people, and then we're going to present the best of the best. And either you want it, or you don't. And now the United Nations thinks we've got one of the best programs. And it's like, just have a vision, believe in it, and show the best of who you are. Because who you are is really cool. Just be that.
Isn't Finnair opening a route to San Francisco? Helsinki, San Francisco?
That would be incredible. I would start there.
Yeah. At least as a Finnair Plus member, I got an offer for the
That's awesome.
What do you say about San Francisco? So,
it's just an idea. Start small, get the early adopters, everybody else will follow.
It's one transfer away.
Yeah.
One transfer away.
Yeah.
Massive
It's perfect.
market. Yeah.
Perfect.
Lena, you will bring the message forward to Visit Finland.
Yeah, Visit Finland is the USA market is not the main market,
Right, it was just an example. Because there are other Western European destinations that you could really go after that maybe you're not, or continue leveraging. Okay, moving on, because I want the dialogue, and I know there's a lot of talking here, but I told you it was going to happen at the beginning. I tried to manage your expectations. This sustainable strategies, try not to think about this as just sustainable. Just do business right and reap benefits from it. Make money off of doing the right thing. You're a perfect example, Kale, because what you deliver is exactly what the market wants. You are exactly where you need to be, and you are offering value. There are things, I would have ideas for you that you might do differently, but it's your entire ethos and mindset lives and breathes that. You don't have to say sustainable. People will just know it by the way in which you act. And then you can charge a premium for that. Because you're like, you know what, to do this and to do it right, there's a cost that's associated with it, and this is what it is. And then especially when you can also, once you're profitable, you can feed the system of further conservation and support, then people believe in you even more, and you're already doing that by virtue of the economic model you shared with me. Okay, next stage, product development and marketing. So, and that's where we're going, right? The product development and marketing. So, what do you share in common? These are things that when other business in adventure tourism are talking about where can we invest, the fact that all of you in Finland, not just here in the room, not just here in Kuusamo and Ulanka, but throughout the country, this is generally accurate, right? So you've got a really stable environment for adventure tourism development. These are some of the other things that we talked about, so I'm kind of reiterating to make the point. You already have the framework. So then, it is leaning a bit more into the ecosystem framework. And just to emphasize your role, the public role, with the private enterprise. And again, you guys are leaders in this, but I'm emphasizing this because this is really the only way it will happen. When I think about 50 years, this is what I mean by reconsider, reframe, and reinvent. You must do this today in order to realize whatever that future vision you have, that positioning that you want 50 years from now. Because climate change is going to dynamically alter your environment here, period. the physical environment and also how many people are coming here and such. So you have to actually think completely different about, and this is to your point, you must value these assets and in a way that you can share it thoughtfully and then have people transformed when they come here and have them ambassadors to help protect, because you in particular have some very sensitive, biologically diverse places and you need help to protect them. The Finns can't do it all by themselves. You can do a really good job, and then with extra support, international attention, you could get extra support for that. Again, we've talked about this. Invest. Think about where those investments are going. You know, people, destinations fall into the trap, and businesses fall into the trap of just dumping money into things like international major trade shows. Well, some of those trade shows are going like this, when you could be much more specific in your approach, and you can take the reindeer, we say the bull by the horn in the United States, maybe you take the reindeer by the horn, and you really concentrate those investments, where you market, when you market, how you market, and think differently. Don't think out of the box. It's not just certain internet channels, you know, where you need to market. You could come up with other creative solutions in order to access those markets. Maybe it's a new partnership with Finnair, not Thin Air, Finnair. What I heard, I wanted to make sure I said that right. There could be very different approaches to marketing with them. So maybe the entry into the San Francisco market, something happens at the other end that helps to do this. I don't know what that could be. I could do some brainstorming for fun with you guys at some point. Motivate stakeholders. I think you're mostly motivated. Perhaps some may feel marginalized. Think about who those are. If you feel like anybody's being left behind, bring them in, invite them to the table right now on your vision planning for down the road. Track everything, know your benchmark, and I think in large part you guys are doing that. But don't just think about how many park visitors. I keep hearing all the park visitor focus. I like to encourage destinations to think not just in terms of how many people go through the turnstiles or how many heads and beds, but how many new hectares of land are protected, how has the language been preserved, how many artisans are enabled to protect log cabin building and crafting of this. How many people are still doing this in Finland? What if there were a program that helped support the recommitment to this? I mean, this alone and the knives are just extraordinary. Think about things like that. So, to me, and then measure the impact of that, not just all the revenue generated from the turnstiles and the heads and beds, but also how it contributes to things like this. The farming, if local farms, if that local food movement, which it will, the local food movement continues, direct economic benefit. You have to look at every industry. Even the forestry industry should not be your enemy. The forest industry should be embraced, and maybe there's a product to help people understand how the most responsible forestry is accomplished, if Finland's a leader in that. There is adventure product in that. Mountain biking, and then they go to a sawmill and they understand how planks are made. Most people don't understand how houses are built, you know, where they source the wood. So you can think about things differently. Don't look at them as evildoers. Seek the right businesses, the right markets, and I really mean this. I've been sharing an example where in some destinations so much emphasis is placed on the Indian and Chinese markets that they're catering so much to that in those destinations you have more of their restaurants than you do of the local cuisine, and that alters the cultural experience. So there's that threat as well, and you want to prevent erosion on that. And then, like we were working on last night, it's about positioning and branding and promoting. So, to do that, get this common language, your entire group. It's this brand wheel, I think, is a big part of that. I would share that extensively when you're ready. Even
our Air Force scaring, no, our Air Force scaring the Russians.
I was going to say, is that a myth or is that one of our plans?
That was your flight. That's the Hawks. Yeah, no worries.
I was.
They're coming to get you. No.
I was in the Balkans, and I'm trying to remember which country, but I was in the Balkans and I look up and I'm going, oh my God, those are MiGs. And there was a whole squadron of Russian MiGs. I can't remember what country that was in. That was just recent. And I was like, ooh, you know, because our whole life has been. So, sorry for the distraction. Private sector programs mobilize consumers. As you all probably know, if you, as private enterprise companies, demonstrate growth in this particular area and you're successful in attracting the adventure traveler, I guarantee you all of the government officials, from mayors to prime minister, president, whatever your, the structure is here, will start to pay attention. Why? Because it's direct contribution to GDP. And GDP is all that those people care about in the end, because it keeps them in political positions and they maintain the power. Hate to be so bold and direct on that, but it's the truth. And then really isolate. And again, I think you're doing it like the slow food movement. Key, small concept. It's not a small concept, but in terms of what's possible, it's a very isolated example. The cycling touring between the national parks, it's excellent. So, I have gone long, but I'm seeing, there's this slide and one other slide. And it's just doing, you're all familiar with the SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Maybe this is where some of our dialogue can be, based on the context I provided you. And once this type of exercise is done, then it's getting specific. But when you do the strengths and weaknesses, I would say the weakness that you really have to think about, and it doesn't have to be a protracted exercise, is what's your long range? What's your end goal? What are you going to be in 50 years? So that when you hand over the industry to your kids, then their kids will still see Finland, and in particular these parks in this region, as an extraordinary experience, despite all the other crap going on in the world, right? What will this place look like? What will it be? Will it be a bunch more of the resort look and feel? Will there be a bunch of, buildings all around the park? No, because you're going to be visioning what that future is. And maybe you end up having a north to south, east to west, biologically diverse corridor that you've created and you've committed to, and all the private landowners are engaged and the government's behind it, and you can now do from the very tip of Finland all the way to the south, and it's a new route that doesn't exist today. Who knows? But what is that vision? So these are just some thoughts. It's a starting place, and that's with my limited exposure to your destination. So all of this is offered with that caveat. So questions, thoughts, maybe think a little bit. I'm going to take a quick bio break, and then I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oliko teillä 12?
Joo.
Pitäisikö syödä väliin vai ei?
Joo.
Tuntui Pohjois-Amerikka. Mä lensin jokin aikaa sitten itse asiassa Rovaniemen kautta kotiin tänne. Ja koneessa oli hirveän iso ryhmä Quebecistä. Mun tyttären poikakaveri on Kanadasta ja se puhuu sitä quebecoisia, niin tunnisti heti ja juontelin sitten muutaman ihmisen kanssa. Oli tulossa vaan niinku napapiirille. But you have Arctic Circle in Canada as well, but it's non-accessible.
How is it
Koska se on jäätikköä. Ei siellä ole infraa. Meillä tuo golffirma tekee sen, että meillä niinku täällä on tää. Siis koko Kanadahan on niinku, mehän on niinku Keski- ja Etelä-Euroopan korkeudella. Sitten alkaa Amerikan raja tulee vastaan. Että et niillä on sitä pohjoista ulottuvuutta, mutta se ei kuitenkaan ole niinku.
Se ei ole palveluita.
Niin, se ei ole niin ehkä sitten taas niinku sellaiselle niinku, että he oli tulossa vaan sitten pohjoiseen.
Niin. Mä oon kuullut huhuja, että Visit Finland vähän niin kuin kattoisi uudestaan tuonne länteen päin.
Joo, ja se liittyy siihen Stockholm-kuviaan, koska siihen on niinku pysyntää se konsepti.
Joo.
nyt tämän lennonkin puitteissa muutenkin niin menisi hyvin sinne, niin varmaan mä en ole itse, niin kun se ei kuulu tähän mun hankkeen kohdemaaksi tässä, niin mä en ole sillä ihan perillä, että mitä siellä niin tapahtuu. Mutta meidän sivultahan löytyy sieltä visitfinland.fi. Sieltähän löytyy ne maakohtaiset tavallaan tiedot ja viimeisimmät päivitykset. Mutta kyllä, se on juurikin niin.
Tulossa workshop.
Joo, on.
Ympäri Yhdysvaltoja.
Koska nimenomaan sieltä päin on niin tullut kiinnostusta. Että se ei alun perin ollut siihen stopoveriin mitenkään sidottava, mutta nyt se varmasti niin kuin ensi vuoden aikana vahvasti laajenee.
Helsingissä oli se WhatsApp in Germany-tilaisuus.
Niin, sä olit siellä, okei.
Siellä oli sitten tutkimustuloksia, mistä niin kuin tuotiin esille just, että miten tai yhdysvaltalaiset matkailijat, että miten paljon ne oikeasti niin kuin kuluttaa rahaa täällä. Ja, että se on, niin kuin, se on ollut vähän semmoinen niin kuin piilossa oleva ryhmä, joka nousee sieltä koko ajan. Ehkä enemmän kuin mitä kukaan on osannut odottaa. Ja kaikki on enemmän tai vähemmän fokusoitunut tuonne itään päin. Tässä on todella iso potentiaali.
Joo, mutta se on kyllä tosiaan niin kuin huomioitu ja huomattu. Ja siihen aiotaan niin kuin...
Jenkeistä on se, että ne on tietämättömiä, ne on hirveän keskittyneitä vaan siihen omaan maahansa, että ne ei edes tiedä suurin piirtein, mitä Eurooppaa on. Niin. Se on, mutta se on just se kuva, mikä
niin kaikki aina sanoo, että
niin.
ne on semmoisia.
Sitten ne on kuitenkin semmoisia, että ne niinku kiinnostuu siitä alueesta. Se niinku merkitsee heille muutakin kuin se selfien ottaminen.
Niin, joo.
Niin oikeasti paneutuu enemmän siihen, mitä ne näkee ja kokee, kuin se, että pääsee, että saa hyvän kuvan.
Pääsee ostamaan jotakin kansainvälisiä brändejä.
Sitten ei ehkä palveluntarjoajiltakaan vaadi niin paljon muutoksia siinä omassa tuotteessaan voidakseen palvella heitä, kun mitä se joudut tekemään, jos sä käännyt enemmän tuonne itään päin. Niin siinä pitää varmaan vähän muokata enemmän sitä omia.
Niin ja kielitaitoa.
Sekin.
Omada itseään oppaita.
Hey, I'm just going to tell here, in order to motivate you a little bit more for the upcoming exercise, that Visit Finland will join the ATTA. I say ATTA, it's ATTA.
ATTA, yeah.
But we say ATTA, as you probably noticed. Yeah. ATTA now, as soon as we just get the paperwork organized, you know. So, and we will discuss then how we will organize it on a national level and how it will benefit you as an area as well.
I think something we should discuss, yes.
Okay,
So one of the questions that came along over the last 2 days is, Veiko in particular was asking this, is there a structure for like private enterprise companies, regional tourism boards and so on to join as a group? And the answer is yes. And where there are numbers, of course, then we like if there's a group of 10 or more, then we can do a % off of what that annual membership fee is. It's just we would coordinate with the national body to make that happen. Or if there's 20 or more, then we can do even better and so on. So, and what we usually like to do, because we don't like one-offs, if we get a member and they kind of only partially lean in for the year, well, kind of like what happened with Visit Finland, Visit Sweden, it happens unless people lean in. When they lean in, they usually extract the value out of the membership tenfold. Because for ATTA membership, it's not you just buy it and there's a logo and that's done. It's an engaged process. It's two-way. Like any good relationship, it must be two-way. So that's how we engage as an industry, and that's when it's most successful. So we, in fact, have done this with Norway, and we're working. We started it 3 years ago. Parts of it worked, parts of it didn't. So now we're retooling that a little bit, and it's getting more tailored for that group. When there's a larger group, we spend more time and energy focusing in and supporting that, because then there's a vibrant group and we want to further fuel that. So then we would have more Adventure Connect events like this. We wouldn't have this Adventure Connect, we would be talking about other things. Like in a future Adventure Connect, it might be more focused on marketing to international. You know, we would co-define what that agenda looks like, and we would develop it. So we like to do these arrangements in 3-year agreements. It's good for us, it's good for you, and usually what we see is immediate and good value in first year for our members, stronger and even powerful value in the second year, and then the third year is typically where the heavier return on investment comes. Because then people come to know you, the international buyers know who you are, the journalists do, and so on. And that would be concurrent with our joint activity, maybe Adventure EDU, with an adventure week, or something like that, just depending on how you all wanted to proceed as a destination. So,
Veikko is asking, what is the schedule about this event?
How long will this exercise take?
We're beginning it now. This is now discussion time. It's not.
Is it like 25 minutes or 15 minutes? And
yeah, we've got a half an hour just to get the dialogue going. Really, the important part right now, the exercise, is feed me with as much of your questions and challenges and such, so that when I go back, I know what's front and center. Now that you have some of the context that the global adventure tourism industry is working on, does this raise questions for you? Does this raise questions about the ATTA? Are there specifics that are on your mind? This is what now I need to know, because this is an investigative mission for me as well, so that I can further figure out how to support your aims. So that's this exercise. You know, this SWOT analysis and such, and first steps, you know, these are where you all have to dig in. But I would suggest starting with a long-term vision.
Well, for the audience online, we are about to finish at 12 o'clock. I have trust in that, faith in that we keep the schedule. And Chris will leave like 20 past 2, so I'll take him to have lunch, and then we'll drive him off to the airport.
Excellent. And it doesn't stop here for us. So what I'm doing in the coming weeks is I'm writing a story about my time here, and about what I've learned, what I've experienced. I usually write a story following an Adventure Connect event, and that's the first flag that's raised for a destination, especially a unique destination, and people within our network do pay attention. So people are going to be like, Finland? We haven't heard from Finland, you know, and because we've never really talked about Finland specifically. We've talked about the Nordic region, but we'll be doing social media, we'll be doing a story, and then assuming we have deeper engagement, likely, in this case, Visit Finland will do a profile, which will be available to the trade and online. That comes with the membership, and so you start to get that visibility. It'll show up in our newsletter. So Adventure Travel News, which is the news authority for the adventure tourism industry globally, we have about 25,000 unique subscribers who elect to be in that, to receive that newsletter. We started Adventure Travel News in 2005 from nothing, and now we have this, and that database is scrubbed every single year, so it's a very accurate look. It includes over 1,000 journalists around the world who get that, so when you all are included in some of our stories and things, a lot of eyes are on that. So it's a good place to start. So that'll be one of the first steps. And then depending on how all of you respond and however you want to get feedback, either directly and or to Titta and Lena or to Veikko, we can move from there and discuss that. I would like to be able to announce to our Nordic group that we've already crafted, as soon as we're official, that Finland has arrived, and that'll be a big message for them. We had an event in April in Åre, in Sweden. We had 80 participants from the Nordic region and none from Finland, despite many invitations. So at the end of the program, I asked for help to reach out and raise the flag about the ATTA in Finland And fortunately, that's precisely what happened. And so your friends and colleagues in Sweden made the connection and we fired it up again. So you're not at a significant deficit, but a lot of the dialogue has begun. I will again share the stories that I've already written for the Nordic region. I think I've already shared them with you, but maybe we can share them out with the group as we follow up.
I can't remember. Perhaps.
Okay. Yeah, there's multiple stories about the work that we've been doing over the years that focus on the Nordic region. And so hopefully that'll help you understand where we've been and kind of where we're headed. We have an Adventure EDU coming up November 15th and 16th in Vamplin in Sweden, and in Västerås. And there we will have mostly Swedish participants. I think we're at capacity, but if there are any seats left, I will check this week. I'll try to check on Friday. And if there are any seats left, I know that Sweden said if we have anybody from Finland who wants to come over and be a part of that, a few, because there aren't that many seats left. We're already, I think, at capacity 75. But if there's, you know, a couple, I'm sure.
When was it again?
November 15th and 16th.
This year?
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very advanced program. In Titta, at the very least, you know, I don't even know if you're around, but based on what your objectives are, the topics are going to be very specific to what you're interested in terms of branding and a really advanced approach to that. So we have really, to me, this is one of our most exciting Adventure EDUs coming up. It's one of our most sophisticated programs. And it's because our colleagues in Sweden are really demanding. So we've evolved the program and really made an advanced commitment to it. So it'll be talking about consumer behavior, it'll be talking about, you know, advanced marketing and things like that. So I will share more with you when I learn what our capacity is.
I have a few questions. Veikko again. What are the most successful cases in your experience on creating outstanding thematic trails and routes?
Well, I've shared with you a little bit about the Wild Atlantic Way, but I'll bring your attention to Via Dinarica, which is it's a hiking trail, mountain biking trail that spans 8 countries in the Balkans. And up until a couple of years ago, it was largely unknown. And a single individual rallied a few other people, like a handful, and started saying, hey, you know, we can develop this into a long trail route, a thematic route. And it started off as a hiking, trekking trail, like, you know, many of the popular Alps trails that you're familiar with, but this is in a wholly different part of Europe that is undiscovered. So those guys started, they began work with the National Geographic Geotourism Project. So they got a little bit of funding to call attention to this area, and they started getting traction, but they did heavy-duty personal groundwork to start mapping out this route, signing, working with the community along the way, etc. Now, I think it's about 5 or 6 years later, it is now, it's soon to become one of Europe's top long-range trekking trails. And they've done it through methodical development, deep community engagement all along the way, and now it's a 45-day hiking trail, trekking trail in the Southeast Europe. And we helped them kind of officially put it on the international scene, first with Adventure Week in 2014, and then we put the punctuation mark on it at the Adventure Next event, Balkans, in May. And the exposure that they're getting now for this project is really significant. And commercially, it's incredibly viable, so people are buying it up like crazy. And it didn't exist just a few years ago. So to me, that's a really good example. It's cross-border. It involves slow food. It involves farmers. It involves multiple adventure activities. It involves super sensitive environmental areas. It involves wildlife. So they have really figured out a way to capitalize it. And then, most importantly, they've crafted stories around it. So not only did they do it and got it ready for commercial viability, but then they told amazing stories about it. And then they found a right channel through our organization and our trade, which is really good. Not exclusively us, but in a large part.
How do you spell the word? I'm still
It's
trying to catch the...
VIA,
Yeah?
Dinarica.
Dinarica.
Yeah.
Okay.
DINARCA. It's via dinarica.com, I think. Yeah. And these guys are technologically savvy, so they've incorporated apps, they've incorporated mapping, and they're great storytellers, and they have filmmakers. So I can't underscore the importance that you all could place on rallying Finnish photographers, filmmakers, to help accentuate what you have here, like your honored photographer who's made national parks a priority with his photography. I would foster that, you know, and let people tell that story. So that's one example.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Can you recommend some benchmarking destinations to learn more on adventure tourism developments, community building, and customer experience management?
Yeah.
Mainly in Europe.
Yeah. For the slow food movement and slow adventure, I would suggest looking to Emilia-Romagna and Parma, Italy. It's fascinating there. It is the essence of who they are, and they really convey that. Name some of the aspects in you said customer service management?
Adventure tourism developments, community building, and customer experience management.
I'll try to give you a few examples. So from a community building, incredible emphasis on profit and highly sophisticated trail system and infrastructure, Switzerland is really amazing. I mean, they get top rankings in both the Adventure Tourism Development Index and in the World Economic Forum. So on both indices, they're very strong. But the sensibilities of the Swiss are really something to behold. They really, it's not just that they are like clockwork. They're actually extremely committed to the things that we're talking about here. It's incredible. From a community building standpoint, I'll give you an example that may seem a bit like it might not come to the top of your mind, but it's one of the best examples in the world, is Namibia. It's not Europe, but it's a great example to look at. Namibia, you know, they weren't independent until, what, 1991, 1992? And at that time, in their constitution, they wrote that basically their sustainable future is dependent on the people, and they will be committed to it. So literally in their governing principles as a nation, they're committed to conservation. Now, I believe that 52% of their country is under conservation management. So they're starting at the top, right? And I'm going to make a point here. So at the head of state level, and even beyond that, because it's in the Constitution, all the way down to the communal conservancy level, the tribes, they have a model where their aims are in concert and they work toward the same aim. So as you know, there's extraordinary poaching going on in Africa. And most wildlife, all the big game populations have been decimated over the years. In Namibia, and while it's not perfect, and there are some case studies that are arguing a little bit different numbers, but in general, all of the big game are rapidly increasing because they are tearing down those massive fences that pen in wildlife between countries. so between Uganda, Botswana, and so on. They've opened up those borders so the fences, the wildlife can now roam free. And all of those countries are beginning to understand the power of wildlife tourism, and they see the money in it. So the local tribes have always argued we have to kill the lions because they kill our livestock. So the government said, stop killing the lions, and we will pay you if any of your livestock is killed as a result of a lion, because you can earn more money through wildlife watching than you can by killing the animals and supporting a poaching culture. You know, international guests coming in trying to get the trophies. So they changed that entire ethos throughout their nation, and they developed the communal conservancy approach, which means everyone in each of those communities shares in the profits made on tourism. So there's no one business that is able to extract more value out of a shared resource than another business. Okay? The money that's earned by that tribe, by that community, is shared. So the tribal leaders in the model, I'm certain there's some corruption that goes on, but to a much lesser degree than most other destinations around the world, they're sharing in all that profit. So everyone is incentivized to make it better and to protect the animals and wildlife. So what they have found is that the elephant, the cheetah, the lion, etc., all those populations are going like this. And the way that they're making it work better is they're now trying to engage all the border countries to continue down that path. So it's, if cancer metastasizes and gets worse, this is the positive metastasization, right? They're spreading out the goodwill that's benefiting everyone. So financially, they're actually directly addressing poverty. So to me, this is an incredible example of community building. It's an extreme example, but this is visionary. These are people who were thinking not 50 years, but indefinitely about what they wanted their future to be. And they have legislation to increase even more. So any lands that aren't currently under conservation management, they're trying to make it 100%, 100% conservation management of their entire nation. This is why I was suggesting, what do you want it to be 50 years from now? What do you want people telling the story about Namibia alone, or do you also want it here? And I would argue the same for almost every destination. People should be battling for that moniker, There's another example. Oh, go ahead.
No, so everybody's just like, okay.
There's
so much information, as well.
I know, and that's why I said at the beginning, this is a kind of a tough first meeting because you guys already have really damn good sensibilities. So it's like, okay, where do you go from here? And how do you elevate that game even more? So my story will be positive. Not that I ever really write negative stories, but I call out issues and where destinations struggle. If you've read any of the things I've written, we have to be honest, and that's the first part of sharing, is being direct and being willing to take feedback, and that includes right back at us. And we expect our community to give us feedback. If they see us heading in the wrong direction, or we need to change the way in which we deliver, we will. We just need to hear the feedback. If we don't hear it, we don't know.
Okay, there's an online question by Petri. Are they similar voluntary-based outdoor resorts or operators in the EU region that offer guided day hikes for fee, NGOs, etc.?
There's a lot of volunteer questions coming out, and I'm
curious. What does it mean?
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure. Petri,
Can
can you clarify this question?
Is voluntary somebody who doesn't work for that business full time?
Right, I'm trying to figure this out. It's hard for me to contextualize. There's many different forms of the notion of volunteering linked to tourism. So I'm still unclear, I think.
I suspect it could be something like someone works as a guide, as an extra job, So then it's, I suppose then they still have the qualifications and all the trainings and
Right.
you know, everything like that up
Right.
to date.
I can give you an example of, maybe this will hit it if the clarity is not coming through. So there are these individuals in Macedonia, and I know we got 7 minutes to the top of the hour. In Macedonia, they have national parks, okay? And in 2 of the national parks, they have a bear population, which I didn't know until I went to Macedonia. I didn't think there were any bears that far south, but there are many bears in the Balkans. And they were trying to figure out a way where they could help prevent poaching, just like you would think about in Africa, the same situation, because there's a tradition of aggressive hunting in the Balkans. And the national parks were exposing this. They did the studies, they found out how many bears they had in the park and so on. And then you had, I think what I'm hearing here, which is a volunteer kind of wildlife group who goes in and they help people understand the bear population, and they monitor. They're in bear watches, or bear hides. What do you call them, hides? Yeah, they're in hides, and they're actually helping in the scientific data collection process so that they're better informed on what they can do to protect the bear. Well, that's a voluntary program. They don't have money to fund that, but all these people who are search and rescue people, mountain guides, and so on, that's what they're doing because they're passionate about it. So what we did is we helped expose this work in progress to the trade, to international commercial companies, and we had them reflect on whether or not this is a potential product, as to whether travelers could come and help be a part of the observation and recording. And the answer was yes. People loved it. It became the top adventure trip that we offered ahead of our event. So surprisingly, that particular one really came up. People were thrilled, and so now it's becoming a commercially viable product. But it's it's something that's easy and tangible to do. You come in and you help. You get the excitement and thrill of seeing a rare bear, and you're helping the scientific process. And I know there are examples like this all over the world. This one just happens to be the freshest in my mind. I hope that helps.
Did you get the clarification? I've got one question.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering, in your opinion, how do you see people understand when we talk about national parks? Do people all across Europe, if we talk about Europe here, do they understand the concept of national park? What does it include? What is actually the activity you do inside the national park? My thinking here is that should we bring out sometimes the activities before the national park, we talk about areas, and do people understand what it means? Are all national parks, I haven't been to national parks that much in Europe, are they all the same? When people go abroad, do they look for, they probably go to a country to do cycling and hiking and stuff. You know, they don't Google for national park. No. You know, you understand what I mean?
Typically, so this would, I don't have science behind this. It's more anecdotal and just based on other consumer studies that I've read over the last 20 years. And I actually pulled out the customer journey slides because there was just too much and I wanted to simplify. But you know, obviously, first people are dreaming, right? They're thinking, oh, I just want to go snorkeling, or I'm going to go mountain biking, or I'm going to go climbing, and then they start considering, I've got 3 weeks. Where could I do this in the world, and can I afford it? And they go through this, so they might start reading magazines and going online, and they're thinking about cycling. In this case, Finland. That's where they're going to start. And then they might say, oh, I wonder if you can cycle in, oh look, there's national parks here. I wonder if you can cycle in the national parks. I wonder if there are guidelines around it. So I think globally, people have a general understanding of what a national park is. They also think grandeur, right? Because national parks typically are the most amazing assets of any given destination. So they see the imagery, they hear stories about the park. I think you guys are in a very exciting situation because you border Russia, okay? And that holds intrigue. in particular for countries who have been at opposition, at odds with Russia for so long. I grew up my entire life fearing Russia, period. And I'm a product of the Cold War and all of that. I mean, and present day, your current boomer generation, which makes up the largest part of your adventure traveler, cares about those things. So to be able to get close to the Russian border holds intrigue and mystery, right? So situation, or your geographic location is kind of interesting. Will that resonate? That same intrigue, will that be appealing to an adventure traveler who may want to have that part of their adventure? To a millennial? Maybe not. They don't have the context of the Cold War. It's not the same. Now, recent tensions may revive that, who knows. But they start thinking about these things that might get them on the edge, or that will take them to really unusual destinations. We had fun talking about reindeer, and in North America it's all about Rudolph, right? We've been brainwashed since childhood about Rudolph. So every kid wants to see reindeer, and families want to see reindeer. So they're going to start working through that mechanism, and then they're going to say, all right, if I'm going to go there, I've got 2 weeks. What are the key activities I can do? They're going to just keep distilling it down in that decision tree. Thematic first, I would think, and then more specific activities, and then who provides that, how accessible is it, and when's the best time of the year to travel.
Out again, not accessible.
What's that?
Then we're out again as Finland destination because we're not accessible. Yeah.
Well, but then I hear, 2 flights from San Francisco. That's a big deal. And, at heart, I have European sensibilities, but I'm also still mentally U.S. focused and such. And I've gone to a lot more difficult destinations than Finland. To me, it's far more difficult to get to the Balkans than it is to get here. I have to fly to Istanbul, mainly, to get to the Balkans. That's like #1 hub. You can do it through Frankfurt and Munich and all of that, but you have to think about the pricing and the routes and this and that, and that's way too costly. That's why people go to Istanbul, So here, it's like, maybe you fly to Amsterdam, Stockholm, direct flight, and then you've got 1 flight to come here,
The challenge has been the domestic flight connections,
which I learned once I arrived.
within Finland, and it's been a issue for several years. I think we're going to see some improvement.
That's the chicken or the egg
summer.
thing, though, right?
Especially when we talk, it's not for the winter, but it's for maybe for winter as well, but not in such a big extent. But summer especially is the
Coming from San Francisco, stopover in Helsinki probably doesn't sound too bad.
You know what, Helsinki is we've heard our whole life about Helsinki, most people. Like if I say Helsinki, people go, oh yeah, it's Finland. So there's awareness for Helsinki, and you have to leverage that. And you should encourage a stopover of 2 nights there, It's like, that is a really interesting city. For me, the one thing I really recognize there is just the architecture is astounding for me. I just really appreciated that because it's got such influences that, to me, are very unique. Of course, I'm into that stuff, but anyway, I found it really interesting. So when I suggested look at all of Finland, we're parked here in Kuusamo. I get that, and what our focus is here at this meeting predominantly. But you have to think about Finland. Remember to raise the flag for the nation first, so that even people know what we're talking about. Because in North America, they're not going to say, I'm going to go to Ulanka. They're just not going to do that. You have 40 parks here. They're not going to think of only that 1 park. It may be your diamond of all the parks. It's a harsh reality. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. So you have to get their attention first focused on the Nordic region. This is why I'm encouraging the Nordic region to find out ways to carry big key, and I don't mean you have to have direct partnerships with all of your neighboring countries, but I'm saying thematically and conceptually, how do you together raise more attention for this part of the world?
There is actually now cooperation with all the northern areas of Scandinavia in China. So we're doing a
And there's actually a big project as well, Visit Arctic Europe.
Right.
Yeah, going
I have
on
a call
with all
next
this
week. I
kind
have
of-
a call Monday, I think, with Arctic
Okay,
Europe.
yeah.
Or
So I
Tuesday.
think they've just had the campaign, and I think we're going to see the results.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
So which is great.
Yeah.
I think US is well, maybe not that, but I think there we could also do more.
Yeah.
And I know there are workshops, for example, we did together with the Scandinavian countries and events and happenings. So we do cooperation at some level.
Okay.
There as well.
I'm sure this conversation would continue much longer, but I have to keep the schedule.
Make sure
And
that-
we have a lunch to attend to, and I'll have to take Chris to two places, to buy kupilka kuksas from the supermarket and then to the Kuusamo talo. But if you want to join us for dinner, please do. So lunch, so we can still continue this conversation if we. I don't know which is the best place to go for lunch, but there's a lunch restaurant just across the street, and it's okay. Would you say?
Very convincing.
Okay,
fantastic.
Which I mean, we will call Doyle the first culinary option. I have been there. It's really nice.
I can't wait to hear all the progress.
Onko teillä parempia ehdotuksia lounaspaikaksi sitten lähempänä Kuusamo tuolla
Kultainen kukka Suomessa.
No tietenkin, jos toi hotkun... Ei me lähetä sinne.